A figure flashed out. A figure flashed out. With his hands intersected, a dark green energy surged from his body and formed a cross-shaped defense shield in front of Long Fei. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The sound was so loud that it caused the cave to crack and boulders to roll down. All the mountains within a 10,000-kilometer radius all trembled. The demon beast in the valley also roared. Outside the cave, Brothers of Five Elements was extremely anxious. What should we do? How's boss doing in there? We can't just wait. We have to do something, right? No. No one has treated us so well since we've entered the ancient antiquity. Since we've recognized him as our boss. How can we let our boss be in danger alone? I don't care. I have to go in no matter what. If I die, I die. Brothers of Five Elements was also a hot-blooded young man. They recognized Long Fei as their boss. Right now, the cave was producing all sorts of violent collision sounds. In this kind of situation, they couldn't sit still. The five of them looked at each other and nodded heavily. The four of them swiftly rushed into the cave. They went in. According to what Hu Liehua and the others said, Long Fei had tightened his grip on the firebowl cave. Should we? The two middle-aged men's eyes were cold. Their body was releasing killing intent, quietly observing Brothers of Five Elements from the shadows. Seeing the four of them rush into the cave, they were sure that Long Fei was inside. Right now, they had to consider whether or not they should follow him in. After all, they had come with a mission. Wait a little longer. There must be something strange inside the firebowl cave. There's only one exit to this cave, and we're guarding right here. If they come out, they can only come out here. Long Fei, that brat, is best alive. If he doesn't come out, then he's definitely dead inside. Our mission is also complete. Another man said lightly. All they had to do now was wait. With such a violent collision happening inside the cave, there must have been a fierce battle going on. No matter what happened inside, they only had to wait here. The mantis stalks the cicada and the oriole. They were the yellow sparrow. As for the four brothers who had charged in, they were useless in their eyes. They were just four pieces of trash who posed no threat to them at all. Within the cave, Long Fei was startled. Looking at Fong Wampeng in front of him, he was shocked. You? He thought that Fong Wampeng was in cahoots with Dong Tiankuei, but it seems that he wasn't. Fong Wampeng's face showed that he was struggling. The cross-medallion shield was already cracking and could not withstand the firehammer's attack. Looking at Long Fei's dazed eyes, he let out a heavy sigh and said, "Return what to you? Hurry up and run." Long Fei was shocked. Dong Tiankuei let out a heavy cry and said, "Fong Wampeng, are you really going to go against me?" He didn't think that Fong Wampeng would actually make a move. It even blocked his fiery giant's heavy hammer. The anger in his heart grew even stronger. Fong Wampeng said, "Senior brother, I just do not want him to die. I hope that senior brother can be magnanimous and spare him." "No way. He must die today." As he said that, Dong Tiankuei's eyes were already red. He would not let Long Fei go. No matter what, he had to kill Long Fei. Otherwise, it would be a great humiliation to him. Fong Wampeng said, "Does senior brother have to kill him?" Dong Tiankuei said, "You must kill him." Fong Wampeng's gaze sank and said, "I can only offend you all too." Held Long Fei with one hand, protecting his back, as he said in a heavy tone, "Find an opportunity to escape quickly." Dong Tiankuei glared at him. "He can't leave. If you dare to block me, you will die as well." Boom! As the flames surged, special runes appeared on the body of the fire giant, and its power rose once again. Fong Wampeng was not afraid, as he chanted in his mind, and his clothes instantly turned dark green as they emitted a crystal-clear light. Light covered his entire body. It was like a magic shield. Fong Wampeng said in a low voice, "I will stall him later. Find a chance and escape yourself." Long Fei asked, "What about you?" Fong Wampeng smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry. Although I can't beat him, I still have the ability to protect myself. Don't be afraid when you return to the sect. There are tens of thousands of outer court disciples, so it's not that easy for him to find you. Go," Fong Wampeng said calmly. as his gaze turned to look at Dong Tiankuei. His eyebrows tightened, as his cultivation was one level lower than Dong Tiankuei's. If he were to go all out, he could only last 10 minutes at most. However, since he had made his choice, he wouldn't turn back. He had never done anything that made him regret his actions. Even if he was wrong, that was the end of it. Long Fei nodded and said, "Then you should be careful, Just as Long Fei wanted to continue, Long Quang suddenly spoke out. This fire attribute cultivator's cultivation is stronger than Mo Li's. If both parties were to go all out, he would only be able to hold out for 8 minutes, and he would be defeated. Tell him that if he wants to win, he must attack his main body. His main body's thigh and thigh are his weaknesses. As long as he attacks once, his fire attribute source energy will shrink. If he attacks again at this time, if he attacks 3 times, he'll be able to turn the tide." Long Fei was slightly stunned, but he quickly changed the topic and said, "Senior, his weakness is his main body's thigh. There are injuries on his thigh, and if he were to attack 3 times, his power would quickly shrink and be unable to be released." Fang Wanpeng was startled for a moment, then looked at Long Fei and said, "All right, I'll remember." Dong Tiankuei shouted as he changed the weapon in the fire giant's hand into a gigantic mountain-splitting knife and slashed at Long Fei without hesitation. Fang Wanpeng's gaze tensed up and immediately went to meet them head-on. With a heavy sound, he said, "Kid, quickly leave." Boom! The two forces collided with each other, and the entire mountain could no longer endure and began to crack continuously. Seeing that, Long Fei did not hesitate. He turned and ran out. Dong Tiankuei stared at Long Fei and bellowed, "Run? You won't be able to escape." Boom! An imposing aura rushed towards Long Fei. The pressure circled around Fang Wanpeng, its speed extremely fast. However, Fang Wanpeng's eyes darkened, his body blurred, and like a shadow, he landed in front of Long Fei. "Senior Brother Dong, your opponent is me." Fang Wanpeng blocked, and immediately used his own body to block the attack. His body sank, and blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth, but he still said to Long Fei, "Run. Don't worry about this." Dong Tiankuei was furious. He stared at Fang Wanpeng and said, "You're courting death." Long Fei stopped and looked at Dong Tiankuei seriously and said, "This daddy has recorded this grudge, and in the future, I will return it tenfold." Long Fei did not stop. Long Fei did not stop. He couldn't stay either. If he stayed in this state, he would only be a burden to Fang Wanpeng. If Fang Wanpeng had not used his body to block the powerful attack, he would have been lying flat on the ground by now. The rage in his heart raged. His hatred soared to the sky, but Long Fei was not blinded by it. His only choice was to escape. "Hurry up!" Fang Wanpeng rushed towards Dong Tiankuei, seemingly releasing all the power in his body. He was going all out. Long Fei turned and ran into the passage. Dong Tiankuei was furious. He watched as Long Fei disappeared into the cave, stared at Fang Wanpeng, and said, "You overestimate yourself. You think you're qualified to block me? Fang Wanpeng, you are courting death." Before he could finish, the fire giant that Dong Tiankuei summoned changed its shape once again. The flames on his body also started to burn. Moreover, at the same time, his right hand flipped and released a strand of fire essence. As he coldly looked at Fang Wanpeng, "You're courting death, and I'll grant your wish." Rumble, rumble, rumble. With an explosion, the cave collapsed. The cave behind Long Fei continued to cave behind him, and he was unable to see the situation inside. Dong Tiankuei's cultivation was too strong. Advanced Sword Immortal Realm. Just the pressure itself was too much for him to bear. He had just released the fire elemental energy that he had cultivated earlier, and the fire elemental energy was his source energy. From the explosion just now, he could tell that he had used all of his power. I wonder if Senior will be able to withstand it. Long Fei ran out of the cave with all his might. His entire body was in pain, but he could not stop. He could only keep running outside. Even if a rock were to hit him now, it could take his life. There was only a tiny bit of blood left on the top of his head. It couldn't stop attacking. Long Quang slightly said, "If he remembers your words, there shouldn't be a problem. If you don't take your words seriously, then I'm afraid." He did not continue. In regards to Dragon Quang, Dong Tiankui's body had many weaknesses, but in regards to Fong Wanpeng, the only thing he could do was take Dong Tiankui's thigh. Just as Long Fei had said, there was a hidden disease on Dong Tiankui's thigh. As long as it hit his thigh, the power in Dong Tiankui's body would quickly dissipate. If he continuously attacked 3 times, Dong Tiankui would not be able to release this power for a short period of time. Long Fei frowned. "I hope he takes my words seriously." Long Fei was also worried. The words of a swordsman rank warrior. And it was even towards Powerhouse's words of guidance, who would take it to heart. Even if Fong Wanpeng had set his eyes on him, he did not take Long Fei's words to heart. As the old saying goes, "I have crossed more bridges than you have ever walked." Fong Wanpeng did not take Long Fei's words to heart. Seeing that Long Fei had left, his heart relaxed and said, "Senior brother, how much is that fire essence? I will accompany you. After we return to the sect, I will pour tea for you and apologize." Accompany, pour tea and apologize? Humph. Fong Wanpeng, what do you take me for? A slap to the face? You're too arrogant. Who do you think you are? Dong Tiankui's eyes were filled with contempt. The pressure from his body continued to resonate towards Fong Wanpeng. Fong Wanpeng appeared to be struggling as his breathing became ragged. "Senior brother, he really is a rare genius. The fact that he was able to kill Fire Bull King and even block 2 of your attacks is enough to prove that he is talented. This kind of talent is just what ancient antiquity needs." While he was speaking, the power aura on Fong Wanpeng's body clashed with the aura, blocking Dong Tiankui's aura. He heavily breathed out a mouthful of air. Speaking of which, Dong Tiankui became even more furious and sneered. "Genius. Talent. So what? This world has never lacked geniuses. There's only one less, not one more." Dong Tiankui snorted. "Are there not many geniuses in ancient antiquity?" "A lot. But why did some of the geniuses just disappear?" "Because they don't know how to appreciate favors." "So what if you're a genius?" "If he really is a genius, then he should have knelt on the ground and delivered the fire essence to me instead of acting so arrogantly in front of me. Just what kind of thing is he to act so arrogantly in front of me and block my attack?" "Umph. Fong Wanpeng, and you actually blocked me for a so-called genius in your eyes. You think you're that great? Who do you think you are?" Dong Tiankui said fiercely. There was no lack of geniuses in the world. However, it was the kind of person who knew how to judge the situation. Only such people could survive. This was also a reality. Dong Tiankui sneered. "You think you can protect him? Do you think you can keep it? A mere outer disciple of mine could crush him to death with a flick of my finger. Genius. Ha ha." He laughed loudly in disdain. At the same time, the aura around Dong Tiankui's body intensified as he looked at Fong Wanpeng and said, "If you block me, then you will die here today. Grade 2 fire essence. Fire god, get out." Boom! His power released a violent rumbling sound. Dong Tiankui spat out a fire pellet with his mouth. It was scarlet red, and his power exploded out. A second-grade fire essence was far more powerful than a first-grade fire essence. In an instant, the temperature in the cave rose sharply, and the rocks in the cave instantly melted into magma, which continued to drip down. The ground was melting and cracking. Fong Wanpeng's defense was suddenly set on fire, his body releasing white qi. The surface of his skin turned red. The water in his body was evaporating rapidly. His face turned pale, and his lips cracked. His entire body seemed to have withered. Crack! Walala! The defensive shield shattered. Fong Wanpeng's eyes tensed up. All of his internal organs were burning, and the heat from the surface of his body crazily entered his body, causing him to be unable to endure the heat. A mouthful of blood sprayed out. When it hit the ground, it instantly evaporated into steam. Dong Tiankui sneered. "You're the only one who is stopping me? You overestimate yourself." Boom! The power of the fire god came crashing down. Bam! Fong Wampung was immediately smashed to the ground and vomited another mouthful of blood. The temperature of the ground was too high. The moment his body fell to the ground, his entire body was set ablaze. "Ah!" Fong Wampung screamed. Dong Tiankui laughed coldly as his body slowly descended to the ground. He walked in front of Fong Wampung, stepped on his head, and then fiercely stomped on the ground. His face touched the ground that had turned into lava. "Ah!" Fong Wampung screamed again. "Stop me? Umph. You reckless fool." Dong Tiankui laughed coldly. And at that moment, Fong Wampung suddenly remembered what Long Fei had said. He couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take it anymore. In less than 8 minutes, he had underestimated Dong Tiankui's cultivation. Sect leader of the Horcruxes Gate Hill. The cultivation resources he received far exceeded that of Fong Wampung's. Even with the same cultivation level, Fong Wampung was still not his opponent. It was impossible to cultivate a second-grade flame essence in 5,000 years, but Dong Tiankui had only used 100 years. The master of sect. He could use cultivation resources whenever he wanted. Why would Fong Wampung fight with him? His head was stepped on, his face was burned, and his hair was burning with pain. The feeling of being stepped on the head made Fong Wampung feel very uncomfortable. But it was also at this time that he suddenly remembered what Long Fei had said before he left. Dong Tiankui's weakness is her thigh. What he said after that was constantly going through his mind. Weakness lies in the thigh, weakness lies in the thigh. On his thigh. On my thigh. Fong Wampung was furious. Boiling hot lava almost flowed into his eyes, causing his body to suddenly stand straight. Dong Tiankui sneered and said, "What? Does it feel bad to lie on the ground and try to get up? Ha ha ha. Just die obediently here." His foot suddenly exerted a lot of force, wanting to push Fong Wampung down to the ground again, but in the blink of an eye, Fong Wampung's palm turned into a fist and locked onto Dong Tiankui's thigh. Bam! Dong Tiankui was not prepared for it. When the punch landed on his thigh, his pupils suddenly shrank and his body secretly shook. He staggered backwards, almost falling to the ground. The intimidating aura around his body and the rank 2 flame elemental energy he was releasing were also diminishing rapidly. Fong Wampung stood up and took a deep breath. Looking at Dong Tiankui's panicked expression, he thought to himself, "That kid, you're right. His weakness is his thigh. I have to hit him 3 times in a row." Thinking of this, Fong Wampung endured the pain and stepped forward. Boom! Dong Tiankui had not stabilized himself when he saw Fong Wampung's figure disappear into the distance. He tightened the space between his brows as the energy within his body churned, wanting to release the energy that he had withdrawn earlier. But, bam! Fong Wampung punched his thigh again. Dong Tiankui let out a blood-curdling screech. His expression secretly changed, and his entire body fell to the ground, his legs trembling uncontrollably. His body shrank back. His face slowly turned pale. He used one hand to cover his thigh, staring at Fong Wampung, who was standing in front of him. His face completely burnt up. He asked anxiously, "Junior brother Fong, what are you trying to do? Don't come over. You said that you would let that kid go. Don't worry, I won't look for trouble with him in the future." Dong Tiankui expressed his helplessness and urgency. Killing intent filled his heart. "Fong Wampung, just you wait. Wait for me to recuperate from my injuries, and then I will definitely send you to hell." He had a hidden disease in his thigh. This was the first time he had burned himself while cultivating fire elemental energy, and it had also become his weakness. He did not know how Fong Wampung knew that, but he did not have as many thoughts as he did now. If he were to attack again, at least half of his cultivation would be crippled. 3 years. In 3 years, if he was unable to maintain his current cultivation level, he would lose his position as the sect head and be trampled over by people he had offended before. These were all secondary. The most important thing was that in the future, he would become a trash whose cultivation could not be broken through. This was the most fatal part. Just one more punch. It would be useless. Fong Wanpong walked towards Dong Tiankuei step by step, his face still bleeding. Looking at Dong Tiankuei, who was constantly retreating, he said, "Senior brother Dong, now you know let him go? Now you know how to say that. What have you been doing?" His body was covered with wounds, and he was barely able to stand. But Dong Tiankuei was in an even more miserable state. The power of his body was frantically shrinking, and the temperature of the cave also quickly dropped. Dong Tiankuei continued, "I was wrong, junior brother Fong, I was really wrong. I can only blame myself for losing my mind because of that fire essence. My fault. I want you to apologize. When the time comes, I will also apologize to that outer court disciple and bring him directly into the inner court. I swear I will." Dong Tiankuei had a face full of confidence. Right now, he definitely could not let Fong Wanpong hit him a third time. Absolutely not. As long as he still had strength outside of his body, he would be able to recover to his peak state. He only needed to rest for a period of time. The words are so pleasing to the ears, just like the Oriole bird. They sound so pleasing to the ear. Fong Wanpong said with a cold smile. He stood in front of Dong Tiankuei and said, "But, do you think I would believe that?" At this moment, Fong Wanpong condescendingly stood in front of Dong Tiankuei. Dong Tiankuei trembled, directly kneeling on the ground and begging for forgiveness, and said, "Junior brother Fong, I was wrong. I beg you, give me a chance. I will never do this again." Didn't he want the fire element? I will give him my second-grade fire essence. I will compensate you with a divine weapon, and I will treat all your injuries as well. I swear, if I can't do it, then I will be struck by lightning by the heavens. Junior brother Fong, we entered the ancient antiquity in the same year. We have known each other for so many years. Are you really going to kill me? Did you do it? We are senior brother-s of the same sect. Dong Tiankuei kept on talking. He understood Fong Wanping's personality, and his heart was very soft. Indeed, when Dong Tiankuei mentioned that they were senior brother-s of the same sect, his heart was indeed moved slightly, and his heart softened. He couldn't move. However, just as he was hesitating, Dong Tiankuei's body suddenly erupted. The flames on his body fiercely ignited. He roared, "Die!" Using his full strength, he used the last bit of his strength. Just as the flames on his body was about to devour Fong Wanpong suddenly kicked him. It swept onto Dong Tiankuei's thigh. Boom! Dong Tiankuei's body exploded outwards as the flames released from his body rapidly retracted back into his body. The surrounding flames all surged into his body at the same time. Ah! He let out a pig-slaughtering howl, as if his entire being was minced into a meat paste, and was in so much pain that he wished he were dead. A flame that looked like a picture pattern was slowly covering his entire body. Dong Tiankuei stared at Fong Wanpong and said, "Fong Wanpong, I will kill you. I will kill." Standing up, he wanted to rush towards Fong Wanpong. However, as soon as he took his first step, his body sank to the ground. He became completely terrified. My cultivation level, my cultivation realm of the 6th stage of King Swordsman, No, I won't. My cultivation won't disappear. Crazy. At this moment, the aura of the warriors on Dong Tiankuei's body disappeared, and he could not even stand up. He had become a piece of trash. My cultivation base, my fleshly body. Dong Tiankuei screamed in pain. His eyes looked like they were about to spurt blood as he looked at Fong Wanpong and roared, "I will kill you. I will definitely kill you." Fong Wanpong did not attack again, allowing him to shout and speak. Dong Tiankuei had already become a piece of trash, and his cultivation had completely disappeared. Even if he recovered well, it would still take a few years for him to recover, and he could only recover half of his strength, and he would never be able to break through. In other words, Dong Tiankuei was no longer a person of his world, and had already been removed from their world. Fong Wanpong said indifferently, "Senior brother Dong, take care of yourself." Finished. He looked at the passageway above his head, and his breathing calmed down a little. He then abruptly flew out. Don't go. Shitty Fawn, don't go. Don't leave me behind. I beg of you. I was wrong, I was wrong. I really was wrong. I don't dare to do it again. Please don't leave me behind. Dong Tiankue panicked even more when he saw that Fong Wampong was about to leave. The only way out was through the volcanic crater, but he was like a cripple right now, unable to fly out. If Fong Wampong left, he would have to wait for death. Fong Wampong did not turn back. With a glare, he stepped forward and slowly disappeared into the passage. Actually, he himself was severely injured. His face was burned and his internal injuries were severe. He wouldn't be able to recover even after 3 to 5 years. With his current strength, even if he brought along Dong Tiankue, he wouldn't be able to do so. He didn't think of taking Dong Tiankue out either. Let him fend for himself. Seeing Fong Wampong disappear, Dong Tiankue panicked even more and got even more irascible. Don't go, don't leave me behind. Shitty Fong. Fong Wampong. F***CK your ancestor. If I can get out, I'll kill you. I swear to God. You and that outer core trash brat. I will definitely make you regret being born into this world. Someone come. Is there anyone here? Hurry up and save me. Dong Tiankue shouted hysterically, the entire cave only having his own echoes. Suddenly, gulp, gulp, the magma pool, which was originally silent, suddenly began to boil. It continued to emit hot steam, and the scarlet-red magma began to gush out. The volcano was about to erupt. Seeing that, Dong Tiankue's pupils tightened, and his body anxiously retreated, leaning on a corner, his back leaning on a rock, his entire back instantly releasing white smoke. The pain was so intense that he screamed again. His clothes were torn apart. Magma continued to flow out of the magma. This was the lava that came from the underground fire vein. Just now, the violent collision sounds that came from underground should have blocked off the path of flow of the underground fire vein. It was only because the underground fire vein was blocked that it began surging upwards. Gulp, gulp. The lava sprung out crazily. Dong Tiankuei stared at the gigantic magma pit, his fists clenched tightly. I do not want to die. I do not want to die. His eyes were trembling. However, finally, he gritted his teeth and bellowed, ah. Suddenly, it was as if he had gone insane, running into the magma pool with all his might. Gulp. Yi Zichen jumped into the magma pool and was quickly engulfed by it. And then there was Long Fei. Not long after he left, he met the 4-5 Elements brothers who had entered the cave to search for him. Boss, you finally came out. Boss, your injuries. Let's not talk too much for now. Hold on to me and quickly get out. The temperature of this mountain is getting higher and higher, and it might cause a volcano to erupt. Yi Zichen spoke in a hurry. Everyone tensed up. 2 of them held on a Long Fei and ran out anxiously. Long Fei's heart sank. I wonder if that senior has escaped yet. Dong Tiankue, right? Your father, will remember this grudge. If I can't get you the next time we meet, I will have your surname. Long Fei said fiercely. If it wasn't for him dealing with the Fire Bull King first, he would have definitely crippled Dong Tiankue with a 3-rate ancient dragon body. Long Fei was currently very worried about Fong Wampong. He was the one who saved her. I must repay this favor in the future when I get the chance. Long Fei said silently. Hurry, we're almost at the exit of the cave. Once we leave the cave, everything will be fine. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The temperature in the cave grew higher and higher, as if it was in the middle of a flame. As long as he left the cave, everything would be fine. Looking at the light outside the cave, everyone became excited. Long Fei secretly relaxed. I'm finally out. It's also fortunate that I accepted the Brothers of 5 Elements. Otherwise, based on my current situation, I probably wouldn't be able to get out. His physical body was too weak now. His body was severely injured. He needed time to recover, and it would be best if he could cultivate in the refined space for a breakthrough and recover in an instant. Otherwise, it would take a long time to recover. He went out. Ha-ha, we're out. Ha-ha. He was getting closer and closer to the cave entrance. The exit was right in front of him. At the cave entrance, 2 middle-aged men wearing tight clothes were leaning against the sides of the cave. Their eyes were cold, and they emitted a strong, killing intent. The two of them looked at each other, and the corner of their mouths curled into a sneer. It's out. That kid actually didn't die. That's for the best. It's his honor to die at our hands. Haha. Their eyes turned sinister as their killing intent intensified. Come out. Earth let out an excited cry. He took a step out of the cave. Mo also laughed loudly. Ha! It was almost burnt dry inside. Finally, it came out. No, he finished. Long Fei's expression suddenly sank and said with a heavy voice, "Be careful." He had a special ability to sense killing intent. It had nothing to do with his current injuries. But, too slow. Without waiting for him to finish, pung pung. After two heavy blows, the earth and wood both caved in. Their bodies flew directly into the cave and collided with the wall, causing them to spit out a mouthful of blood. Puff, puff. His face instantly turned pale. The two of them fell to the ground, unable to get up, suddenly attacked. Fire and Jean were shocked. It's Uliehua's men? Or? Long Fei's expression tensed up. His heart was a little angry. F***CK. Hua and Jean were about to rush out, but were stopped by Long Fei. Don't go out. Jean shouted loudly. Huliehua, your ancestor. There was no response from outside. Long Fei said lightly, They're not Huliehua's people, they. It should be an assassin. It should be targeting me. The aura on Huliehua's body was simply not this strong. Moreover, the most important thing was their killing intent. They were assassins. They were killers. They were killers. Their auras were completely different from ordinary martial artists' auras. This kind of cold killing intent was not something that could be produced by killing a few people. Rather, it was something that could be produced by killing a lot of people. It was very obvious that they were neither Huliehua nor ancient antiquities disciples. They were the killers from an assassination organization. Moreover, his level was not low. Assassins who could enter the ancient antiquities territory were definitely not simple. Someone must have arranged it. One could imagine the status of the person who was capable of making such arrangements. Ha ha ha! After Long Fei finished speaking, the two people standing at the entrance of the cave stepped forward and laughed coldly. Smart. Your analysis is very accurate. You're right, we are killers. Just to take your life. A middle-aged man laughed coldly. He stared at Long Fei, who was in the cave, and said, I never thought that you would still be able to come out alive. I thought you were going to die inside. Jean said loudly. Who sent you here? Ha ha ha. Childish. A man laughed. How could an assassin say such a thing? Long Fei said in a bland voice, I don't care who sent you here, but I will pay double the price for whatever that person offered. A man was slightly surprised and asked, Double the price? Haha. Kid, it seems that you are very rich. Long Fei said, If you tell us to leave, you can get the money immediately. The man smiled and said, Since you said that, then you should have all your money with you? Long Fei's eyes darkened. Your sister. The man laughed. That's even better. I didn't expect to be able to catch rabbits and graze them. Ha ha ha. All right. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Obediently come out and accept your death. This way, your death will be more comfortable. The man was sure to eat Long Fei. The four of them had low cultivation bases, so they were not a threat at all. The only thing was their goal. Before accepting this mission, they had also understood Long Fei to a certain degree. But now, even if it was powerful, it was still a cripple, with his identity severely injured. Even if he possessed incredible strength, it wouldn't be of any use. Thus, they had completed this mission. Jean raged and said in a heavy voice, You want to kill my big brother? Then you guys have to get past me first. After which, he charged out. Don't go. Halt! Long Fei shouted, but it was completely useless. The 4-5 Elements brothers were all furious and impulsive. Moreover, they recognized Long Fei as their boss, and now that their boss was in trouble, they wouldn't care about anything, including their own lives. Only trash like you? Humph! A man's body sank. The moment Jean rushed forward, he threw a kick at him. Bam! A kick landed on Jin's abdomen, knocking him to the ground. He stepped on Jin's head again and said with a smile, Trash. He pressed down heavily. After being firmly stepped on, Jean was completely unable to move. The other man laughed. It's better not to struggle useless. Brat, you should just obediently kneel down and crawl out to die. Our target is you. If you die, they will live. We won't kill targets that have no value, let alone these trash. The man laughed. The 4-5 Elements brothers were too useless. Not to mention a single move, even a finger could deal with them. Hearing the words trash, the 4-5 Elements brothers felt extremely uncomfortable. They were used to hearing it in the past, but now they were in front of Long Fei. They felt very uncomfortable. A frantic struggle. However, the man heavily kicked, Call me again. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. His face paled, and he clenched his fist tightly. In his heart, he hated himself for his weakness. However, there was nothing he could do. The 4-5 Elemental brothers were all the same. It was hard, very hard. The killer laughed and said, You want to admit that you are trash, and you still call me that? Scream again. I want to see what kind of tricks you can come up with. Bah, trash. A mouthful of phlegm was spat on Jin's head. He stomped hard on the ground, crushing Jin with his oppressive aura. King was struggling. His body was in severe pain, but he didn't make a sound. Long Fei looked into his eyes. His fists could not help but tighten, and said solemnly, Those who touch my brother die. Ha ha. The one who touched your brother will die. That's interesting. I'd like to see how I died. Finished. He ruthlessly stepped on Jin and loudly laughed. Come, kill me. I want to see how trash like you will kill me. Ha ha. You want to kill someone in your current condition? Are you trying to scare me to death? Ha ha. The two of them laughed crazily. They were amused by Long Fei's words. In Long Fei's current state, not to mention killing, he would even find it hard to walk. However, his eyes were cold and his heart roared. 3-rate dragon body. Open it for me. He wanted to forcefully unleash the power of the 3-rate dragon body. He couldn't allow his brother to be insulted like this, and there was nothing he could do. However, before the 3-rate dragon body was activated, his body could not withstand the power of the 3rd level of body. Even if he forced it open, it would be useless. Long Quang also heavily said, Don't be impulsive. Master, your current physical body is completely insufficient. Don't act recklessly. Long Quang was extremely worried. Long Fei didn't care and roared out in his heart, Open the 3-rate dragon body for me. He used all of his strength and struck out heavily. His body sank to the ground and, unable to withstand the pressure, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. Boss! Long Fei's face turned as pale as paper. Wow, is this a failure to stimulate my strength and cause me to vomit blood? Isn't this too overpowered? He's really scaring me to death. Tell me, why are you so awesome? Ha! The two mocked each other. It was also at this time. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A volcano erupted. Moreover, a massive heat wave swept out from the depths of the cave. The depths of the cave had turned red, and it seemed as if magma would gush out at any moment. Fire frowned, then said, Boss, magma. The two assassins were shocked as well. They looked at the red light in the depths of the cave and started laughing. It seems like we don't even need to do anything. Ha. They only needed to guard the cave entrance and prevent Long Fei and the others from coming out. Being covered by the magma like this, they definitely wouldn't be able to survive. It was extremely urgent. It was also at this time. A drop of Spirit Blood's blood suddenly condensed in the center of Long Fei's palm. Long Quang was stunned. Master, you... Long Fei roared. The clothes on his body flapped. A powerful force burst out crazily. His hair fluttered. Power roared. F*CKU. Spirit Blood's stimulation. 3-rate dragon body open. Rumble. There was a rich wolf in the front and a fierce tiger in the back. There was a rich wolf in the front and a fierce tiger in the back. Long Fei was still trapped in a desperate situation. At this point, he had no other choice. Coupled with the fact that his own brother was beaten up, he would be unable to control the primal rage within his body. Without considering the consequences, Long Fei wanted to forcefully activate it. Master, your body is currently very weak. If you were to forcefully open the dragon's body, it would be too dangerous. Give up. I can think of something. A method like yours that spirit blood uses is even worse, Master. Master, Long Quang kept saying. The two assassins at the door also laughed. Ha ha ha, you're still angry? Just you pieces of trash want to overturn the heavens. Brat, I thought you were very strong, but now it seems like you're just a pile of shit, ha ha ha. The two of them laughed out loud. Open for me. Long Fei ignored everything. He ate everything, but he did not suffer any losses. What was the point of living with grievance? Boom! An explosive sound came from Long Fei's body, followed by a dragon's roar. Long Quang's heart skipped a beat. We're finished, we're finished. This time we're really going to. He was very worried. He was exceptionally worried to even open ancient dragon body in this kind of situation. He was risking his life. No, I must protect my master. Dragon Quang's brain began to spin and fly up. Rumble. Long Fei's body erupted with power. He raised his two eyes slightly and stared at the two killers with his gold dragon eyes. A light flashed through them. The two of them were instantly stunned. At this moment, his heart stopped beating, and he felt as if he had died. It was extremely hard to bear. Long Fei took a light step forward. Whoever touched my brother. As soon as he finished, boom! Long Fei's body disappeared. In the next second, the heads of the two assassins at the entrance of the cave flew up as blood spurted out like a fountain. Half of their bodies were still standing in the same spot as if they had not reacted yet. Instant kill. Long Fei stood behind them as the images of dragons entered his body one after another. Poochie! He spat out a mouthful of black blood. Long Fei's body sank, and he became unsteady on his feet, almost falling to the ground. He glanced at the killer's head on the ground and shouted, "Die!" It was also at this time. The system sounded out. Ding! Ding! However, Long Fei had no time to listen for anything. His eyes blacked out, and he fainted. Master! Long Quang suddenly shouted. The 4-5 Elements brothers also charged forward. Boss, boss, boss. It was just that. Long Fei couldn't hear anything. Blood continued to ooze out from his body, and he was unable to control his entire body. Spirit Blood's stimulating technique gave him a few seconds of 3-rate dragon body time, but these few seconds were exceptionally fatal to Long Fei's severely injured body. His body could not withstand it at all, let alone Spirit Blood's method of stimulation. Moreover, when Black and White were still around, they kept reminding him not to use Spirit Blood's great stimulation techniques. Otherwise, it would be harder and harder to continue on the road ahead. With Long Fei's fiery temper, he could bear it for a bit, could endure it for a second time, but definitely not for a third time. Return to the sect. Quick, bring him back to the sect. The 4 of them reacted quickly. The 4 of them could do nothing. The moment they saw Long Fei fall to the ground, their hearts became incomparably uncomfortable, and they also felt a heavy tightening within. What is the boss? That was it. Long Fei treated them as brothers, real brothers. To protect them, they couldn't tell what they were feeling in their hearts, and now they only wanted Long Fei to live. Ancient Antiquity. Main Hall. Great Clan Elder's Courtyard. It was like this when I got the stone. There's no special source energy inside. Lu Luoshi said. The Great Elder nodded and asked, I heard that this mission was completed by 3 people, and you even brought 2 outer sect disciples in. Did they come in contact with this stone before you? He wanted to know where the origin energy in the stone had gone to. This stone had no use whatsoever. Its greatest use was the crystal core, which was the source stone. Lu Luoshi revealed a serious look, shook his head, and said, they were bullied by people from the outer sect, and I coincidentally helped them. They wanted to follow me to see the world. That's why I brought them. They entered the Nantian city and did nothing. I just told them to follow. They didn't even touch this rock. It's impossible for them to survive in there with their cultivation. I wouldn't let them touch such an important thing. Lu Luoshi was very serious. She was concealing it. She didn't know why the great clan elder would care about this, but she had to protect Long Fei well. The great elder nodded and said indifferently, "Is that so? I know. Thank you for coming here." As he spoke, the great elder carefully sized up Luluashi. A satisfied smile appeared on the corner of his mouth as he said, "Luoshi, there's another matter I've asked you to come over to." Luluashi said, "What is it, great clan elder? Feel free to instruct me." The great elder smiled and said, "This matter is not related to the sect, but your personal matter." Ling Yuan's gaze tensed up. Luluashi also curiously asked, "My private affairs?" The great clan elder said, "Do you want to enter the divine space?" Luluashi's eyes released a ray of light. Divine space, upper world? This was the dream of any martial artist. Who wouldn't yearn for it? Luluashi was the same as well. She was also continuously working hard to hope that she would be able to enter the divine world one day, because Longjanting was right inside the divine space. She had wanted to work hard to find the Long family at that time. Although she had found Long Fei now, the thirst in her heart had not weakened. She had to become stronger, so that she could better help Long Fei. Luluashi nodded his head and said, "The divine space is a place every martial artist yearns for. I naturally want to go as well. It's just that my cultivation talent does not meet the requirements, and I will definitely not win in the selection battle." She knew this very well. However, Luluashi did not think too much and continued, "If the great clan elder was willing to give me this chance, I would definitely give my all and not disappoint the great clan elder." The great elder smiled and said, "It's very rare for you to recognize yourself. With your talent and cultivation, if you were to participate in the selection battle, you naturally wouldn't have any advantages. You have another advantage that others don't have, an advantage that allows you to have an advantage that others can't have." Luluashi was slightly stunned and said, "Great elder, I didn't understand." The great elder smiled and said, "You will understand when the time comes." Haha! Luluashi not only had his own advantages, but also, it was still his advantage. He really did not think that a divine space powerhouse could fancy mortal women. This should be the ancient antiquity's good fortune, and also be his opportunity. So fast. In just a single day, I've already broken through to the 3rd level. The reverse cultivation that boss said is too amazing. In the yard, Zhao Dehan said excitedly. The energy aura on his body was stronger. He looked like a big boulder. "Sister Bing Bing, hasn't second brother come out yet?" Phoenix took a glance at Bailey Tianhai's room, shook her head and said, "No, but I heard an excited sound from him. He probably broke through quite a few levels as well." Zhao Dehan said excitedly, "Second brother is indeed second brother. As long as I give him some pointers, he will be able to comprehend it instantly." "All right, I'm full. I also need to speed up. I can't let big brother down." Zhao Dehan swallowed a few big bun into his mouth and then walked into the room. In the yard, Phoenix's mind was in a state of unease. What happened to me? Why does it feel like something is going to happen every day? What's going on? Did something happen in Phoenix Valley? Or Phoenix pouted and then her eyebrows tightened. "It's my honey?" Immediately, the foreboding in his heart grew even stronger. She did not bother to explain to Bailey Tianhai as she walked out of the courtyard. Ancient Antiquity, Outer Sect, in the Spirit-Controlling Pavilion. This was a place that specialized in treating injured disciples. At this moment, the 4 brothers knelt on the ground and kowtowed nonstop. "Elder, I beg of you, please save our boss. Anything you want us to do, even if you want my life, I'll give it to you. Please, please." The 4 of them kowtowed, begging an elder standing on the stairs. Elder's eyes were cold as he coldly glanced at them. "We can save them, but first pay the money. 100 holy source stones." The other 4 were stunned. "Elder, why is it that we have to pay so much for the treatment?" The Spirit-Controlling Pavilion was a special service for Outer Sect disciples. "No need to spend money." With a sneer, the elder spoke. "They are them. You are all of you. You can only use the spiritual medicines of the sect in the right place." What is your cultivation level? The one lying on the ground is the swordsman rank, and you guys are only at the sword faction realm. Giving you the spirit medicine is also a waste. Why not save some for the sect? After which, the elder sneered coldly. Long before they came to the ruling pavilion, he had received the news. Could not treat Long Fei. Thus, he blocked the door and did not even let the brothers of 5 elements in through the door. The disciples of the 5S could only kneel on the ground and beg for help then. It was useless. The surrounding crowd couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha, you're right. How can we waste resources on trash? Trash should die sooner. I really wonder how you two managed to sneak into the ancient antiquity. Tell me, do you still have any reason to live? Hurry up and dig a hole and bury him. With Jian Shan's cultivation, you still have the nerve to come here and ask for elixirs. The mocking laughter continued. This was the world. If you are weak, even breathing is wrong. Just like the poverty of his previous life, no matter how right you are, it is still wrong. The strong preyed on the weak. No matter what the weak did, they would always be mocked. Brothers of 5 elements felt very bad in his heart. Elder, I beg of you, I am willing to be your slave for the rest of my life. We 4 brothers are all willing. Please. There is nothing they could do but beg. However, the more they are like this, the more disdain there is in the elder's eyes. What do I need you 4 pieces of trash for? Is it a joke to bring it out with you? It's fine if you're trash, but you're even bringing along a half-dead trash to ask for help. What can this kind of trash do even if he's revived? Isn't it just wasting air, wasting food, and wasting the sect's resources? Scram, stop blocking here. As soon as the elder finished speaking, the crowd immediately burst into cheers. Did you hear that? I told you to scram. Don't stand in the way of others. Get lost. Ancient antiquity doesn't need trash. You 5 are from the trash group, huh? The elder sneered and said to the gatekeeper, they are not allowed to take even half a step into the spirit pavilion. And then, flinging his sleeves, he walked into the lounge. The 2 disciples looked at the 4 of them and said, did you hear that? If you don't scram, then don't blame us for being impolite. The 4 of them had hatred in their eyes. Fire picked up Long Fei, looked at the pale Jean, and asked, what do we do now? Jean Zhong said, the boss is willing to sacrifice his life to save us. Even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we have to save him. Go to Master. And then, the 4 of them carried Long Fei and rushed to another place. Not long later, bam! The fire was sent flying with a kick and landed heavily on the ground. You 4 trash still dare to come here? Master's face has been completely thrown away by you guys. Back then, when Master left you behind, what about you? His cultivation had not improved at all in the past few years, and his master had always been mocked by others. Now he still dared to bring an even more useless person here to ask for help. You all are shameless, but Master is even more shameless. Get lost. The further the better. It's best if we don't see you again. He was directly driven out. However, the 4 of them still did not give up. Elder, please save our boss. Bam! He was kicked out again. Elder, I'm begging you. Anything you want us to do is fine. Please save him. Anything is fine, right? All of you can go die now. Ha ha! My spiritual medicine will not save trash, nor will it save the best of you trash. Scram. As far away as possible. Can you guys still be saved? So what if he saved her? Does trash still need to live? Scram. If you dare to take another step forward, I will break your legs. He begged along the way, but was chased out the whole way. Upon seeing the elder, he immediately knelt and kowtowed. They did not feel that they were very lowly. The 5 Elements brothers were like beggars. They had been begging the entire time, but no one took them seriously, and no one helped them. Because it was weak. Because it was useless. All these years, they had been mocked by others. The bitterness in their hearts had always been hidden away. It was very hard. But for Long Fei, they did not feel humiliated, even when their faces were stepped on. From afternoon until nightfall, their knees were broken and their heads were cracked. Everyone was injured, but no one pitied them. He was like an orphan who had been abandoned by the entire world. They saw that Long Fei's face was pale white, All of the chi in his body was flowing like silk. Their fists were clenched tightly, their nails digging into his flesh, and fresh blood flowed down. His heart was shouting and roaring. The feeling of helplessness was too unbearable. What can we do? What can we do? We're just a bunch of trash, huh? The fire broke down, and he began to cry loudly. All the elders of the outer court begged once, but no one helped them. Not even one was willing to give them a glance. This was the week. At this time, a slender figure walked over from not too far away. Her footsteps were a little floating, and the moment she saw Long Fei, she pounced over. Phoenix pounced forward, but when she saw Long Fei lying on the ground, her entire body covered in blood, she did not pounce down, but instead, her expression became extremely calm. Phoenix pounced forward, but when she saw Long Fei lying on the ground, her entire body covered in blood, she did not pounce down, but instead, her expression became extremely calm. It was as if he had become a completely different person. The 4-5 elemental brothers stared at the Phoenix in a daze. Phoenix did not ask any further. She directly said, "Lift him up and follow me. Hurry up." Just one sentence. The aura was completely different. She used to be one of those cute and adorable little elves, but now she had completely become a mature and tyrannical CEO. Her body was emitting the aura of someone with a high position. It was completely different from before. The 4-5 element brothers were also shocked by the aura emitted from her body. Almost without asking for the reason, they immediately followed the Phoenix as they lifted Long Fei up. Phoenix walked very quickly. Her steps were brisk, and she carried the wind with her. Soon, he returned to the small courtyard. Bailey Tian Hai and Zhao Dehan were still cultivating. They did not know that the Phoenix had returned. Take them into the room and wait in the yard. This was the second time that Phoenix had spoken. He spoke in a commanding tone. The four of them carried Long Fei into the room and couldn't help but ask, "Can you save him?" The auras were the same as usual. After all, Phoenix was only a girl that was around 10 years old. What did she do at this age? Phoenix did not reply. Instead, she said, "You guys wait outside. I did not say that you should leave. You're not allowed to." Understood. Yes, I understand. Phoenix's cold gaze swept over the four of them, taking note of their appearances. After which, she turned around and entered the room. Her right hand gently moved. Space control. He closed the door. Phoenix walked to Long Fei's side as tears uncontrollably flowed down uncontrollably. "My honey, why are you so injured?" "Don't worry, I'll save you. I will definitely save you. I'll get you back." The moment she saw Long Fei being so heavily injured, it was as if her heart was pierced by a steel needle. The Phoenix said with a soft voice, "Aunt said that this pellet has the power to revive the dead. My honey, this pellet will definitely be able to save you. It will definitely be able to do so." He put it into Long Fei's mouth. A warm current pressed against Long Fei's chest from his palm, catalyzing the medicinal power of the pill. After the pill melted, a strong force entered Long Fei's body. It healed crazily. However, Long Fei's face was still pale white. The injuries on his entire body had not improved at all, and he was still in a coma, heavily injured. Long Quang let out a heavy breath. Phoenix Nirvana pills. A pellet of the divine, sovereign realm of the divine space. Fortunately, she has this pill and can protect Master's heart. However, the Dragon Quang was very worried. He was very clear about Long Fei's current condition since he was living in Long Fei's body. From a moment he came out of the Firebowl Valley until now, it was his power that had protected Long Fei's heart and mind from being corroded by death. If not for him, Long Fei would already be a four-man team. His body was severely injured, and in that situation, he had forcefully used Spirit Blood's stimulating method to activate the power of the ancient dragon body, causing his body to explode. This was also him. If it was anyone else, their muscles and veins would have long been shattered into pieces. As the Nirvana pill entered his body, a strong force protected Long Fei. However, Long Fei's injuries were too heavy, and a nirvana pill could only replace the protection of the Dragon Kwang. It could only protect long phase mind, consciousness, and soul from being corroded by death and not being able to recover. There's still a way. There must be a way. Dragon Kwang's brain began to spin and fly up. The more he thought about it, the calmer he had to be. When the phoenix saw that Long Fei did not improve at all, she took out another nirvana pill with tears all over her face and said, "My honey, I will definitely save you. I definitely will." Another nirvana pill entered his body. Long Kwang was ecstatic. Another nirvana pill? That girl actually has 2 nirvana pills on her body. What kind of person is she? Even in the divine space world, nirvana pills were extremely precious. This was a pill forged by the phoenix race with the power of nirvana. It was extremely precious. To be healed by the power of nirvana, to have the power to revive the dead. As long as he had a breath, he could be saved. It's just that Long Fei was a little special now. Long Kwang did not have the time to think about Phoenix's identity. He had to make good use of the strength of the nirvana pills. Otherwise, it would only be a waste. The power of the nirvana pills was being controlled by Long Kwang. The space between Long Kwang's eyebrows tightened, and the nirvana force began to circulate between his hands. He thought to himself, "I don't care about this anymore. I have no choice but to take a risk." Suddenly, a voice rang out. Myriad Soul's secret art. His physical body has been reborn. Recast. Boom. The secret art of 10,000 souls was a powerful secret art that could put one to death. Once used, this secret art had no way of turning back. Success living. Failure. Otherwise, all of his previous efforts would have been in vain, and Long Fei would not have been able to live. Long Kwang couldn't find any other way. He could only use this ancient secret technique. Furthermore, the power of the nirvana pills should be able to support the movement of the secret arts. Long Kwang secretly thought, "It should be possible. It should be possible." He wasn't confident either. This was because even in the ancient times, he had never used such a secret technique. This time, it was a last resort, and there was no other way. The power of the nirvana pellet exploded out, forming a number of souls which poured into Long Fei's limbs and bones. Long Fei's body also trembled slightly. His limbs and bones emitted a light sound. It was like the sound of a bamboo shoot popping out of the ground after a rain. Dragon Kwang firmly grasped it and did not let go of even a single bit of its power. He poured all of it into Long Fei's body, and all of the soul energy was continuously transforming Long Fei's body. It was just that the serious injury Long Fei suffered far exceeded his expectations. Moreover, the toughness of his body had also exceeded his expectations. The more powerful the body, the more severe the injuries, the more energy would be needed to support the 10,000 soul reformation secret art. After a few sounds, Long Fei's body fell into silence again. Long Kwang's heart tightened. "I made a miscalculation. Master's body is way beyond my expectations this time." If the energy did not flow into Long Fei's body, when the energy ruptured and he failed to execute the secret method of 10,000 souls, it would mean that Long Fei's body would not succeed in transforming and would directly devour him. There was no chance of survival. I still have more nirvana pills. I still have. Phoenix held Long Fei and placed the 3rd nirvana pill into Long Fei's mouth. She held Long Fei with both hands and held him tightly in her embrace as she sobbed softly, "My honey, don't leave me, don't leave me." She had seen too many farewells. This kind of life and death separation was Phoenix's greatest injury. It was her greatest weakness. When she thought of the past, her body couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. Phoenix was afraid of this parting. Phoenix was afraid of this parting. When Long Kwang felt the energy of the 3rd nirvana pill entering Long Fei's body, he became extremely excited. Another one? Long Kwang's heart shook, and he relaxed a bit. "Thank you, Lord. There's still a chance. Master, I will definitely save you." Even in his era, nirvana pills were incomparably precious. They could be said to be the most precious treasure of the Phoenix race. A little girl carrying so many nirvana pills on her body caused him to be extremely shocked. Long Quang didn't have time to think. He couldn't waste a second right now. Any second would determine Long Fei's life. Once again, he used the power of rebirth from the nirvana pills and channeled it into Long Fei's body. Boom, boom. His limbs and bones began to buzz. Long Fei's body spasmed. His face was filled with pain. His limbs and bones were undergoing a transformation. The process of rebirth was extremely difficult. The pain was indescribable, as if new bones had grown out of his bones. Long Quang growled, "Master, you must endure it. If you do, then your strength, your body can directly step into the third cycle. You have to hold on." Long Quang used all his strength so that he wouldn't waste the slightest bit of his nirvana pill's energy. A few minutes later, the power of a nirvana pellet slowly entered Long Fei's body, bit by bit, before it was quickly consumed. A few minutes later, the power of the nirvana pellet in Long Fei's body was once again completely used up. The Myriad Soul's secret technique continued. It was not complete. Long Fei's flesh body was not completely reconstructed. 3 pills were still not enough. Long Quang panicked a little. How can this be? That's impossible. How can Master's body be this strong? What did Master experience before? What in the world? Long Quang was in a daze. Under normal circumstances, 1 nirvana pill would be sufficient for one to execute the 10,000 spirit method. Even if Long Fei's body was heavily injured, 2 of them would be enough. But 3 nirvana pills entering his body was still not enough. This was not the reason for the serious injuries to his body, but rather the strength of his body was beyond his expectations. This was related to Long Fei's experience. Too many things had happened in the past. Long Fei had clenched his teeth and endured it every single time. His body, his fearless will, his mind, his sea of consciousness, and that kind of mental energy were all a type of physical strength. These were not calculated by Long Quang. Because of this, the 3 nirvana pills entered Long Fei's body, but the Myriad Soul's secret technique was still not completed. Long Quang panted heavily. "Do you still have more nirvana pills? Anything else?" At this time, Phoenix did not hear his words. Phoenix looked at Long Fei and her body spasmed. Not knowing what happened, she didn't dare to move recklessly. She looked at Long Fei and asked, "My honey, what's wrong? You could not withstand the strength of the nirvana pills." His aunt had said that the mortal world's people could not withstand the power of the nirvana pills. Just now, she had said 3 consecutive times, is it beyond what you can bear?" Nirvana pills possessed an incomparably huge amount of power. But if this pill did not have a super divine body, even the mortal realm's strongest emperor swordsman would not be able to withstand it. Phoenix was scared. Furthermore, she only had 3 nirvana pills on her. Long Fei's pained expression made the Phoenix panic. She only wanted to save Long Fei and did not think that the power of the nirvana pills was too strong. Ordinary people simply could not withstand it. All of a sudden, Phoenix's heart began to thump with worry. "My honey, it's my fault. I shouldn't have let you consume so many nirvana pills. It's my fault." Woo-woo. Phoenix began to cry. Long Quang shouted crazily inside Long Fei's body, "Give me another, quick, and another nirvana pill. Hurry up." He was even more anxious than Phoenix, because the process of releasing the secret technique could not stop. If it stopped for too long, all the previous work would go down the drain, and not only would the caster be severely injured, Long Fei would directly die. The current Long Fei was in an extremely dangerous state. Taking a step back meant death. Even if he was a step too slow, he would still die. Only forward. However, this advancement required a powerful force to support it. Without the strength to support it, it was all a waste. At this moment, Long Quang was like an ant on a hot pan, his heart burning with anxiety. What do we do? What do we do? Ugh. Long Fei's body caved in, black blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. Long Quang could feel the power of the myriad soul's secret art dissipating. The loss of power could not support the circulation of the myriad soul's secret art, and after a long time, Long Fei's body would quickly enter the state of death. At that time, even if the great Rudra Golden Immortal came, it wouldn't be of any use. Long Quang started to worry. His brain felt like it was about to explode, and he had no idea what to do. Phoenix was just as anxious as him. Seeing Long Fei's black blood flowing out of his mouth, her face immediately paled, not knowing what to do. My honey, woo woo woo. What should I do? What should we do? What do I do? Phoenix's face turned pale, and she became flustered. Suddenly, Phoenix's eyes moved slightly. Phoenix, sacred blood. My blood can save people. Yes. Aunt said that my blood is especially precious, and that it is the most precious and unique blood of the Phoenix race. Phoenix King blood. Phoenix did not know what to do, but she had to do something. Nirvana pills were her most precious pills. She had given 3 of them to Long Fei without even thinking about it, and now that she saw Long Fei spitting blood, she did not think too much about it. He cut his own palm, causing bright red blood to gush out. Phoenix brought her palm to Long Fei's mouth and said, My honey, wake up, hurry up. It was also at this time, Dragon Quang was extremely shocked. Phoenix King blood. Oh my god, it's actually a Phoenix King blood. A Phoenix King blood that rarely appears in the Phoenix race, even in 100,000 years. This girl. It's really incredible. Can I use my strength this time? Long Quang was extremely surprised. He was unable to describe the shock in his heart, because Phoenix King blood were truly too rare. In the entire ancient world, it could be said that Phoenix King blood were ranked in the top 3. It was no wonder that the first time he saw Phoenix, he said that he did not need to cultivate to break through. This kind of blood vein was a born powerhouse. They didn't need to cultivate at all. The key was, the Phoenix also had an 8-cycle supergod body. She could only use one word to describe it. Terrifying to such an extent, Dragon Quang clenched his fists tightly and controlled the Phoenix King blood to flow into Long Fei's body. This time, Dragon Quang had completely let go of his hold and said with an excited face, Master, just you wait. If you can't do it this time, then I'll just die. The moment the Phoenix King blood entered Long Fei's body, the power of the 8 revolutions transcendental god rapidly exploded in Long Fei's body. The moment the Phoenix King blood entered Long Fei's body, the power of the 8 revolutions transcendental god rapidly exploded in Long Fei's body. It was as if Long Fei's body was injected with a nuclear power. His entire body started to change frantically as he released the myriad soul secret technique continuously. Dragon Quang controlled the power of the Phoenix King blood. Gate of heaven open. Boom! The power of 10,000 souls surged into Long Fei's sea of consciousness. The sea of consciousness was the gate of heaven. The gate of heaven opened wide, surging with power. The scope of the sea of consciousness had been doubled. Middle door open. Buzz. With a muffled sound, the mental gate opened and power surged. The mind transformed as streams of power directly lifted the mental level up. Earth gate open. Die door open. The power of 10,000 souls and the power of Phoenix King blood continued to surge as every part of Long Fei's body crazily transformed, with unstoppable momentum. Long Quang firmly controlled himself. He didn't dare to relax at all. Time passed second by second. 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 10 hours. The secret method of 10,000 souls continued for a long time. The Phoenix had just fed Long Fei 10 novels of Phoenix King blood S, and her face was incomparably pale. Her entire body was also incomparably weak, but she did not stop because Long Fei seemed to have recovered a little. At least his face was a lot redder. Suddenly, Long Quang roared, Gate of life open. Buzz, rumble. With a shake of his power, a stream of power immediately wrapped around Long Fei and covered his entire body. Moreover, Long Fei's body suddenly floated up, giving the phoenix a shock. Its eyes tensed up. My honey. The light halo enveloped Long Fei. He floated silently in midair, as if his body had turned into a feather. Open for me. The dragon crazily roared. Rumble. The light halo that covered Long Fei's body was suddenly absorbed into his body. His body sunk and heavily fell to the ground. Huff. Long Quang also let out a deep breath. Is it done? He didn't know. However, the secret soul technique was finished. Whether he succeeded or not, even Long Quang was uncertain. After all, he had never used the secret technique of 10,000 souls before, and it was not easy to control the power that could make a person turn around and be reborn. Moreover, he now understood the dangers of the secret arts of the 10,000 souls. If he chose to repeat them, he probably wouldn't choose this method. It was too dangerous. If there was the slightest mistake, Long Fei's life would have been lost. Master, Master, Long Quang shouted out a few words softly, as if he was very careful and didn't dare to be too loud. His heart was slightly trembling. Although Long Fei's body did not explode, nor had any adverse reactions, Long Fei did not wake up, nor did he respond. This made him very restless. Was it a success, or was it a failure? After calling out twice without seeing Long Fei's response, Long Quang's heart tightened. Could it be that he failed? No, absolutely not. The coldness in Long Quang's heart rose. If Long Fei died, then he would be a sinner. He wouldn't even forgive himself if he thought that he had sinned for 1,000,000,000 years. My honey, wake up. Hurry and wake up. I'm begging you, please don't leave me, okay? I'm begging you, please wake up. Phoenix hugged Long Fei and shouted. Long Fei's body did not move, and there was no reaction. Long Quang was also completely flustered. Master, please don't scare me. Please don't scare me. Can you give me some reaction? Long Fei still did not respond. At this moment, Long Fei entered a very strange state. This state was very strange. It was like the state in which the system was updated. What's wrong with me? Why? Did my body become lighter? Why do I feel an inexhaustible power within my body? The ancient world's gravity has disappeared. Body. Long Fei didn't know what had happened. He only knew that his body had become extremely strange. His strength increased. His speed increased. His defense had become stronger. Everything had become stronger. This did not mean that he would break through to become stronger, but rather that his own attributes would become stronger. If his previous stats had been 10, he would now be at least 50 or higher. This was a bit abnormal. Original attribute point enhancement? It's permanent. What did this mean? Long Fei was a little confused. Really? Just as he was stunned, the system gave him an answer. The system beeped. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for breaking through the 5 revolutions. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining 5 revolutions body for obtaining a special reward. Reward item, God Orb, 5 revolutions. I've completed the 5th circulation. I actually went through the 5th circulation. IF Asterisk King went through the 5th cycle. Long Fei was completely dumbstruck at this moment. He never thought that he would actually complete 5 cycles. The system had never mentioned about his reincarnation. This sort of situation was quite common in the game. It could be seen from first transition or second transition, depending on the game settings. However, each transition was extremely difficult. He had to reach a certain level, gather a great deal of materials, and a great deal of requirements. Very difficult. Even so, countless players still risk their lives to reincarnate, because after the first transition, all of their stats would be greatly improved, and it was a permanent upgrade. The difference between a first transition and a first transition was like heaven and earth. He would rather not eat and be reincarnated. The first transition was difficult, but the second transition was even more difficult. The further one went, the more difficult it became. And Long Fei had gone through 5 cycles at once. His heart was a little dazed. It was only after confirming over and over again that he realized he was not dreaming. Ha! I've completed 5 rounds. He feels great. Long Fei was extremely excited, as if he had suddenly become a peerless powerhouse. 5 cycles, my body's attributes have increased, then the ancient dragon body's power that I released. F***ck me. Should I break through level 5? Let's take a look first. Long Fei wanted to give it a try. He wanted to know how strong the power of the 5th cycle was. Open the 3-rate ancient dragon body. Boom! An explosive sound resounded. At the same time, Long Fei was just like a deflated ball. The power of the ancient dragon body was instantly lost. Huh? What the hell? Long Fei did not understand. You can't even release the 3-rate dragon body? F***ck. Wait. Long Fei felt that something was wrong. His consciousness was very clear, but the world he had touched. Why is it in my own mind? My fleshly body. He clenched his fists. I can't feel it. He couldn't feel himself clenching his fists. His body did not move. At this moment, he was like a vegetable, different from a vegetable. His brain was clear, but his body could not sense it. Why is this happening? What exactly is going on? Long Fei's brows tightened. He looked at his own 5-turn body and said, could it be that it's too strong? Power overtook his body and brought Long Fei into a world of pure consciousness. Power overtook his body and brought Long Fei into a world of pure consciousness. This was equivalent to him being trapped. He was trapped by his own strength. Long Fei tried several times, but to no avail. He was unable to wake up, unable to sense his own body, and unable to sense the people around him. Dragon Quang. Dragon Quang. Long Fei shouted a few words. No response. Even Long Quang couldn't sense it. Long Fei frowned, realizing that the seriousness of the situation had exceeded his expectations. System, how do I get out? The system did not respond. The system could only host it now. It would not give any response. Long Fei said, give me some hints. There was still no response from the system. Damn you. Long Fei cursed and yelled a few more times at the Dragon Quang, but he still didn't respond. He knew that he was the only one in this world that had a pure consciousness. He was completely isolated from the outside world. Other than the few pure exits from the system, Long Fei was completely unable to sense anything. His physical body? Where is he now? It was as if everything did not exist. It was just like the 3-dimensional space. He was in another dimension. Long Fei was stunned. 5 revolutions. Is this the effect of the 5 revolutions? Turn your head. Long Fei was depressed in his heart. When the idea opened the system, other than the newly rewarded God's orb, there was nothing else in the system space. However, the God orb was only a God orb used to protect one's sea of consciousness. It could calm one's mind and prevent Qigong deviation and was extremely beneficial to cultivation. There was nothing special about it. Increase your cultivation speed by 10%. Divine beads are divine beads, but what's the use of it now? Long Fei laughed bitterly. And also at this time, his eyebrows tightened. Cultivate. Yes, if I were to say that my strength exceeds my body and my consciousness enters a pure world of consciousness, as long as I bring up my level increase, nothing would be a problem. The body will also increase along with the level increase. As long as I can catch up to the body of the 5 cycles, I'll be able to break through this gate of consciousness. Long Fei suddenly realized, that must be it. All right, in that case, let's use the 5 revolving body to cultivate now. With the help of the heavenly jewel, I'm going to fly. After making up his mind, Long Fei instantly entered into a state of cultivation. The idea moved. In my pure consciousness, that refined space should also be here, right? Refined space, open it for me. Boom! The refined space appeared, and the 8 great gates appeared in front of Long Fei. The corners of Long Fei's mouth curled up as he faintly smiled and said, as expected, he's here. Haha. Then let's begin. He took a step into the sword sect. Boom! Half an hour later, Long Fei opened his eyes and said, it's leveled up. This speed was simply too fast. Without any help from the Holy Source Stone, it took him half an hour to break through. It broke through in an instant. He clenched his fists and tried to sense it. He still couldn't sense the outside world. He couldn't feel his own existence either. Again, Long Fei said heavily, "It just so happens that I need to raise my level increase." "Continue," Long Fei cultivated quietly. But he was really afraid now. He had already thought of all the ways he could think of, and it just wasn't possible. He was completely unable to sense the existence of Long Fei's consciousness. "Master, Master, oh my God, my job is to help you ascend to the position of Ancient World King. But what have I done? Master, I'm sorry. How can I have the face to meet my brothers like this?" Long Quang suddenly looked like an old man who had just turned into a lamp who had run out of oil. His eyes were lifeless, and his heart felt like it was dead. It was his own doing, his secret technique that harmed Long Fei. Even if he were died 10,000 times, he wouldn't be able to redeem his sins. The other person was the Phoenix, and she had also collapsed. She hugged Long Fei and sobbed nonstop. "My honey, wake up, please wake up." Oh. At this moment, in the yard, when the four brothers heard the cries of the Phoenix in the house, they lowered their heads and clenched their fists. Their hearts were filled with incomparable pain. He couldn't say a word. Unwell. It is even worse than death. Long Fei stood up for them and did not hesitate to cripple his own body. What about them? There was nothing to be done. This feeling was too unbearable. Bailey Tianhai opened his eyes, which revealed a light aura. The spirit chi around his body retracted. Phew! He suppressed the cultivation aura in his body. Big Sword Sect Level 9. Boss training method is too amazing. Bailey Tianhai was completely convinced. For the past 2 days, the speed of his cultivation breakthrough could only be described with one word. It was unstoppable. He felt extremely grateful. Hearing the crying sounds coming from the inside of the room, Bailey Tianhai quickly ran out of the room. Seeing the 4-5 elemental brothers in the courtyard had their heads down, he shouted out, "Who are you guys?" Without enough time to listen to the 4-5 elements brothers' reply, Bailey Tianhai also immediately ran over. "What's wrong?" "Woo woo. My honey, he dead." The Phoenix sobbed silently as tears flowed wildly, hugging Long Fei tightly. Bailey Tianhai rushed into the room, looked at Long Fei who was on the ground, and his pupils also tensed up instantly as he pounced towards him like an arrow. Boss, what's wrong? Wake up, boss." At this time, Zhao Dehan also rushed into the other room. Upon seeing Long Fei, he also became extremely nervous. "Big brother, what's wrong?" Bailey Tianhai quickly checked Long Fei's body. He's still breathing, he's still alive. Phoenix immediately stopped crying. "My honey is still alive?" Bailey Tianhai held on to Long Fei's pulse with one hand and said, "His pulse is also beating, he's not dead." Phoenix said, "Really? Then why hasn't he woken up?" Bailey Tianhai said, "About this. On his pulse, he was not injured at all. It was extremely smooth, as though he had fallen asleep. There was no problem at all." Phoenix wiped the tears off her face and said, "I have never been to the academy and have read too little. Don't lie to me." Bailey Tianhai replied, "How would I lie to you? Boss is really still alive. It's just that he might be in a deep slumber right now. It's good that you're alive. It's good that my honey is still alive." As long as Long Fei was still alive, she was already satisfied. The corner of her mouth curled up, revealing 2 shallow dimples. She giggled and said, "My honey, I'll wait for you to wake up." As soon as he finished, Phoenix also lost consciousness. She had forcefully endured 10 hours of bloodshed, and now that she had heard the news that Long Fei was still alive, her tense nerves relaxed and she fainted. At this moment, boom! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up, currently at Big Swordsman level 1. Ha! I've broken through to a higher level. I can open another instance dungeon again. Break through Big Swordsman and obtain a dungeon. Break through Big Swordsman and obtain a dungeon. Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining the Big Swordsman's dungeon, breaking the blue. Do you want to enter? Dungeon. Clear blue position. Grassland number of missions. 1 description. to carve out a path of blood in the darkness, to carve out the dawn. Looking at the description of the instance dungeon, Long Fei's heart tightened. Looks like this instance dungeon is also a killing ground. I just don't know if there are demon beasts or some other monsters inside. There's no rush. Let me see how many levels I can break through. Long Fei did not enter immediately. Normally, the demon beast in the Slaughter Instance dungeon would be very strong, so he had to make thousands of preparations. Moreover, he couldn't activate the ancient dragon body now, so he could only rely on his own strength to fight. Huff, continue to cultivate. Tell me now, how did the boss get injured? Bailey Tianhai walked out of Long Fei's room and went to the courtyard to look at the four brothers. King told her what had happened in the valley. Bailey Tianhai's pupil shrank. Assassin? Lin Yuan? Question mark. Many people appeared in Bailey Tianhai's mind. He secretly clenched his fists and said to himself, Inner court? Wait. Bailey Tianhai said, You go back first. There's nothing else for you here. Bailey Tianhai wasn't familiar with them and was unable to confirm that what the four brothers said was true, even if what had happened. At this time, he had to maintain his vigilance. For Long Fei's sake, he had to be careful. Jean asked how his boss. Bailey Tianhai said, I have protected my life, but I do not know when I will wake up. It could be tomorrow, or I might not be able to wake up ever again. He did not hide this matter. Not only did he not hide it, he even said it on purpose. If it really was an assassin, if he didn't kill Long Fei on one occasion, he would come back on the second time. This was what he called luring a snake out of its hole. It's all because we're too weak. We're useless, causing our boss to end up like this. Bailey Tianhai said, Don't talk about that anymore. You guys are also injured. Go back and take care of your injuries. You don't need to worry about this. Shun, give them all the holy source stones. Zhao Dahan took a step forward, took out all of the several tins of holy source stones on him, and stuffed them into Jin's hands. He immediately forced the 4 5 Elements brothers out of the courtyard. The four brothers bowed and left. Zhao Dahan walked to Bailey Tianhai's side and said, Second brother, what happened in the cave? Bailey Tianhai glanced at Zhao Dahan and said, This is also what I want to know. Based on how a few assassins are not my boss opponents, my boss will definitely meet a strong opponent in the Firebowl Cave. If not, he would not have suffered such heavy injuries. However, we can't do that until our boss wakes up. Right now, all we have to do is spread the news that our boss isn't dead. I want to see who sent the killer. He hoped that the 4 5 Elements brothers would spread the news that Long Fei was still alive. However, what surprised him was that after 3 consecutive days, not a single person within the outer sect discussed whether Long Fei was still alive or not. Furthermore, no one knew that Long Fei was still alive. They all thought he was dead. This surprised Bailey Tianhai. The 4 5 Elemental brothers would never spread the news that Long Fei was still alive. They were doing their best to cultivate. Even if he didn't advance an inch in the course of the day, he was still training with all his might. It seems like the 4 of them can be trusted. All right, big idiot, the boss is still unconscious. We have to start a fight. We still have 2 more months to earn 900 points. From now on, we're going to take missions to earn points. Since there were no more killers, there would be no more killers for now. They had to risk their lives for points. In order to kill Lin Yuan in the intersect, he would first need to enter the intersect. He had to pass the intersect examination this time. Before that, he had to earn 300 points. Zhao Dahan nodded heavily and said, Boss has done so much for us, so we should also do something for Boss. The 2 of them walked out of the courtyard and began the crazy quest mode. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for leveling up. Current level, Big Swordsman level, 3. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for obtaining the 3rd rank Holy Source Pellet. 2 system notifications sounded out. As long as he leveled up in refined space, he would be rewarded by the system every time. This was also the reason why Long Fei gave up on killing people to level up. And then again, every time he leveled up, he felt that his strength had truly become stronger and that his physical body could endure more. The power of the ancient dragon body was also becoming stronger. Huff! Big Swordsman, level 3. Now let me see. Long Fei clenched his fists. Level 1, Eternal Dragon's Body. Open for me. Boom! The dragon roared. A powerful energy surged out from within his body and directly exploded out of Long Fei's limbs and bones. Long Fei's eyes flashed with excitement. It did not disappear. Haha, as expected. As long as I bring my level increase up, I can leave this gate of consciousness. Long Fei grinned. He had begun to use the power of the ancient dragon body, and it had directly disappeared, but now it was different. The power of the ancient dragon body had truly not disappeared when he truly controlled it. In other words, level was the key. Second level, ancient dragon body. Boom! A stronger power was released, but in less than a second, all of the power of the ancient dragon body in Long Fei's body disappeared. Level is not enough. Then come again. Continue to cultivate. The intersect the back mountain. Lin Yuan laughed complacently with his hands behind his back. Fighting with me, huh? Was he even worthy of being a tramp like that? Ha ha! Well done. This is your reward. A money bag appeared in Lin Yuan's hand, and he casually threw it. The disciple looked at the money bag in mid-air, and a ray of light flashed across his eyes. When he extended his hand to take it, Lin Yuan's figure flashed. A white light flashed. Hua! The disciple's body was split into two, his eyes protruding out, staring straight at Lin Yuan. The corner of Lin Yuan's mouth lifted and said, "Is my money that easy to take?" Crack! His body collapsed into a pool of blood. Lin Yuan took out a small bottle and poured the powder from the small bottle on the corpse. The corpse quickly evaporated and turned into a pile of black powder. Lin Yuan smiled. This corpse transformation powder is really good. Godsword Child walked over and asked doubtfully, "That brat isn't easy to deal with. How many assassins can he rely on to deal with him?" Lin Yuan said, "Brother Tianjian doesn't believe me?" At this moment, whoa! A horn sounded in the distance. Lin Yuan frowned. Something big has happened. The sound of the horn was rarely heard in ancient antiquity. The sound of the horn was rarely heard in ancient antiquity. Once it rang out, something major happened. Whether it was the outer or the inner sect, they were all enveloped in the sound of the horn. The entire ancient antiquity was shocked. What happened? Horn? What happened? Foreign enemies invading? Still some good news. Many people did not know this because it was too sudden and they did not have any preparations. Main Hall Peak, Ancient Great Hall. An old man, covered in blood, was lying on the ground. The sect leader of the Horcrux's Gate, Dong Tianque. Right now, he was on the verge of death. His eyes were trembling, and his fists were tightly clenched. No one expected Dong Tianque to still be alive. Feng Wanpeng allowed him to fend for himself. However, he never thought that Dong Tianque would actually be able to survive. Furthermore, he had even survived by jumping into the magma. At this moment, he was on the verge of death. His whole body was covered with wounds, and he had no idea what had happened to him. For the peak master of the ancient antiquity to be heavily injured to such a degree, this was indeed a great matter to the ancient antiquity. If so, this was the powerhouse doing something to Dong Tianque outside. That meant declaring war. This was also why he was blowing the horn. The great elder walked out from the back hall, looked at the many elders and peak owneress, and said, "The sect master is in closed-door cultivation. Pavilion Master Dan, how are the Horcrux's Gate Lord's injuries now?" The Pill Pavilion's peak owner walked out and said, "I just checked carefully, and I can save my life, but I'm afraid his cultivation is—" Speaking of cultivation, Dong Tianque struggled violently, his eyes bulging, as though he wanted to jump. The great clan elder walked to Dong Tianque's side and pressed down gently with his right hand, allowing Dong Tianque to quickly quieten down. "Horcrux's Gate Lord, don't be angry yet. It's not good for your body to be angry." The great elder looked at Pavilion Master Dan and asked, "Can you make him speak? I want to know what happened." The Horcrux's Gate Lord was also a powerhouse of the King's swordsman rank. To be able to injure him to such an extent, his opponent definitely wasn't simple. Moreover, His character is very high profile, and before his opponent injures him, they ought to know that he is the Horcrux's Gate Hill's lord. The peak owner of the Pill Pavilion took out a pellet and placed it into Dong Tiankui's mouth. Using his palm to catalyze it, he reminded Dong Tiankui, "Senior brother Dong, do not be agitated." Buzz. The effects of the pill had been completely dissolved. Dong Tiankui was also very clear about his current situation. After calming down for a bit, he said with some difficulty, "Fang Wanpeng, it's him. It's him." The great clan elder's gaze tensed up. "Fang Wanpeng. Isn't this man the clan elder of our ancient antiquity? Did you get injured like this by him?" All the elders in the hall tensed up. His cultivation should not be as good as the Horcrux's Gate Hill's masters, right? Fang Wanpeng is an easygoing person and normally would not make a move on others. Why would he make a move on Senior Brother Dong? Senior Brother Dong's cultivation is higher than his. Even if we fight, we are not his match. How could he be injured like this? Hearing the discussions in the surroundings, Dong Tiankui couldn't suppress the anger in his heart and said, "He's a despicable person, sneak attacking me. Grand Elder, you must kill him. He colluded with the sects in the outside world, and there's even a disciple he planted in the outer sect. He travels all over the place. He has not been a member of the ancient antiquity for a long time. This time, when he encountered a second-grade fire essence, his ugly face was exposed. It was him. It was him. Cough, cough. Blood came out of his mouth. He had made up his mind on the way back. This was the only way for him to defend himself, to ensure his identity. Moreover, he was the Horcrux's Gate Hill Lord, and his words carried more weight than Fang Wanpeng's. As soon as he finished, everyone immediately felt relieved. A sneak attack? No wonder. Fang Wanpeng is really something. He's actually using such a despicable method. I've long seen what bad stuff he is. He has been out all year round. Who knows who he is in contact with? Great Elder, we must give the Horcrux's Gate Lord an explanation for this matter. That's right. As the Horcrux's Gate's master, he actually sent his own men to ambush and hurt him. How big of an injury is this to the ancient antiquity? We can't let him off that easily. Although he was heavily injured right now, he wanted more people to speak up for Dong Tiankui than Fang Wanpeng. The great clan elder frowned and shouted, "Send my order. Capture Fang Wanpeng. If you dare to resist, kill him." A response came from outside the door. Yes. Immediately following that, a golden light flashed. Following that, 100 golden lights moved. This was the strongest elite of the main hall. Every single one of them was at the high stage of the King's Swordsman. They had moved, and with 100 of them at once, Fang Wanpeng had no way of escaping. One had to know that these golden armor bodyguard had never failed once. Thank you, Grand Elder, for upholding justice for me. Thank you. Dong Tiankui's expression, which seemed to be filled with tears, caused all the elders present to feel sympathy for him. The head elder said indifferently, "Don't worry, this is what I should do. I will definitely give you an explanation." Right. You said earlier that Fang Wanpeng had installed a disciple in the outer sect. What's his name? If they actually wanted to make a move on Fang Wanpeng, then they would have to capture his people as well. Dong Tiankui shook his head. "I don't know his name. I only know that he is an outer sect disciple." Great clan elder, I will take care of that brat. I have already sworn that I will personally kill him. His mind was imprinted with Long Fei's appearance. In any case, he also wanted to kill Long Fei. He had to obtain the second-grade fire essence from Long Fei, as all of the fire essence in his body was used up in the lava. If he could obtain Long Fei's second-grade fire essence, he might be able to recover his full strength. Thus, he had to personally deal with Long Fei. The head elder said indifferently, "Since that's the case, I'll leave it to you. Someone come. Hand over the myriad spirit protecting pill." The great elder said softly. The elders were stunned. The myriad spirit protecting pill was the #1 pill in ancient antiquity, and it was extremely rare. As long as it did not die, this myriad spirit protecting pill would be able to bring it back to life. Dong Tiankui was also shocked. He wanted to stand up, but was stopped by the great clan elder. Thank you, great elder. Thank you. Tears streamed down his face, but his heart was incomparably vicious. Kid, just you wait. Once I recover 2 levels of strength, I'll be able to kill you. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Waves of explosions could be heard as dawn broke in the east. A ray of light appeared in the darkness. Long Fei stood at the top of the mountain with his broadsword in hand, looking at the beast corpses all over the ground, then looking at the white light in the east, sky splitting heaven. Ha! I passed the instance dungeon. System beep. Ding. 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 Congratulations to player Long Fei for passing the Breaking the Azure instance dungeon. The reward is a special system reward. The reward is Divine Lightning. Divine Lightning? What is this? Long Fei opened the system to see that there was a completely Shuana bicolored dagger floating above the system interface. The dagger was 6 inches long. The handle was barely enough to hold one hand, and with a dagger, it pierced through Shuana by like a bolt of lightning. The dagger was wrapped in a shallow divine light. It was not a symbol of a certain rank, but a type of power. Long Fei was stunned at first glance. This dagger. This is the first time I've seen such an exquisite dagger. He grabbed it with one hand. He took it out from the space ring. Buzz! With a hum, the divine light on the dagger wrapped around Long Fei and wildly wreaked havoc. Long Fei's eyes narrowed. F***. His arm couldn't stop trembling. The immense power caused his mind and consciousness to tremble violently. So powerful. When Long Fei looked at the divine lightning, he felt that he was not holding a dagger, but instead holding onto a thunder god. The dagger was the emperor of the short soldiers, the holy artifact south that fought in close quarters. Moreover, it could be hidden or hidden, be it assassination or fighting. It was the strongest existence. The key point was that the power of the god Thunder was far more than this. One-hit kill. This attribute. Long Fei's mouth hooked up as he said excitedly, I only need one strike to be able to instantly kill, haha. The system's rewards for instance dungeons are really too awesome. This is what you call a golden thumb. That's more like it. Was extremely excited about the rewards of each instance dungeon, which greatly exceeded his expectations. This made him want to cultivate and refine space even more. Although killing was a great way to level up, it was not as fast and satisfying as this feeling. Continue. Long Fei withdrew his divine lightning and continued his cultivation. Time passed day by day. Phoenix stayed by Long Fei's side every day, not even taking a single step away. My honey, you will definitely recover. I'll wait for you. Phoenix held Long Fei's hand and placed it on her own cheek, as if Long Fei was touching her little face. She gently rubbed at Long Fei's hand, her eyes red as she looked at Long Fei. Her heart was in pain. Half a month had passed, and Long Fei still did not show any signs of waking up. Phoenix did not know what to do. She didn't know what else to do. There were many times when she wanted to go back to the Phoenix Valley to seek help, regardless of everything else. However, every time when she did that, she was worried that Long Fei would wake up after she left. You'll definitely wake up. I'll definitely wait for you. Phoenix muttered. Other than her anxiety, the same goes for the Dragon Quang. He tried countless of methods, but none of them were able to break open Long Fei's gate of consciousness. He was completely out of the way. There was nothing he could do but wait day after day. This was very painful for a dragon. If not for the fact that he used the Myriad Soul's secret technique, Long Fei would have recovered long ago. It's all my fault. How am I supposed to meet my brothers in the future? The dragon was in pain. Outer Sect, Task Palace. Ding dong. The quest page refreshed. The mission ranked 5th on the difficulty level suddenly changed to the completed state. The entire hall was filled with shock. The Swamp Abyss quest has been completed. This is the 5th difficulty Outer Sect mission. Even the top 10 experts of the Outer Sect might not be able to complete it. Who is this person? Needless to say, he is definitely the first powerhouse of the Outer Sect, Yi Tianqing. Why did I hear that Yi Tianqing is in closed-door cultivation. Moreover, he doesn't need to do any more missions. He has the highest points in the outer court, and he doesn't need to do any more missions for the inner court disciple exam. Who could it be? The task palace continued to discuss. While they were discussing, Bailey Tianhai had already walked out of the task palace with another mission scroll in his hand. Nether Passage City. Outside the task palace, when Zhao Dehan saw Bailey Tianhai, he immediately walked over and said, "Second brother, did you accept the mission?" Bailey Tianhai nodded his head and said, "The task for the fourth auction, task reward 150 points, plus 3 third-grade spirit pellets." Zhao Dehan said, "Can a grade 3 spirit pill save Big Brother?" Bailey Tianhai shook his head and said, "I don't know." Zhao Dehan said, "Definitely, tier 3 pills can definitely wake Big Brother up." Bailey Tianhai said, "I hope so." What he was worried about now was not whether Long Fei could wake up, but whether or not he could wake up. What he was worried about right now was task credit. In an entire half a month, their task credit was only 200, and not even a single person had enough points to participate in the intersect examination. And this was in addition to the 500 points mission he had just completed. After deducting this mission, they only managed to get less than 100 points in half a month. How could they afford to get such a high score before the intersect examination? It was very difficult. The first mission of the task palace appeared in Bailey Tianhai's mind, which was also the third of the mission that Long Fei completed last time. After passing through the South Heaven Gate, the second mission was to seize the Heavenly Court. This task had a total of 900 points. As long as they completed it, all 3 of their points would be enough. However, ever since Long Fei had completed this mission, countless of outer sect disciples had accepted this mission. There were even some inner sect experts who had accepted the mission. The number of people who went was great, but the number of people who came back were few. The mission was actually incomparably terrifying, and it was said to be an impossible mission. In the end, if there's really no other way, then Bailey Tianhai clenched his fists tightly and made up his mind. Then he said to Zhao Dehan, "Darling, let's go. We're going to Ethereal Opening City. In the intersect, Horcrux's Gate Hill." Boom, boom, boom. In a secret room of Lord Flame, Dong Tiankue sat cross-legged on a chair, surrounded by 8 elders of the Horcrux's Gate Hill. They all had one thing in common. They were all fire energy users. Moreover, all of them had cultivated a grade 1 fire essence. At this time, they summoned their own fire essence and continuously released fire essence chi, which Dong Tiankue slowly absorbed into his body. His cultivation base was also slowly recovering along with the fire element chi. However, his recovery was extremely slow, and his cultivation was constantly at a bottleneck. If it wasn't for all sorts of resources for him to use, not to mention recovering his cultivation, he wouldn't even be able to recover from the injuries within his body. Boom! A loud boom echoed out. Dong Tiankue's eyes suddenly opened, revealing a glimmer in his eyes. He slightly suppressed his aura. Phew! The Master Swordsman rank is here. Many thanks for your help, junior brothers. Dong Tiankue cupped his fists slightly. The 8 elders cupped their fists. Senior brother is too polite. This is something we should do. Dong Tiankue did not become a cripple just because he was ignored, excluded, and lost in status. On the contrary, he was treated like a hero in the ancient antiquity. He didn't even think of this. Dong Tiankue's heart turned gloomy and cold, and the image of Long Fei appeared in his mind, and he said, "Brat, just you wait." Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month passed. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month passed. There was only half a month left before the inner sect examination. Outer sect, Task Palace. Boom! The third difficulty mission has been completed again. That's 200 points, wow. Who is this guy? Is he the one who completed the 4th or 5th position? Damn, isn't this guy crazy? This is going to sweep away all the missions. I don't think it is enough to sweep through the first mission. Of all the people who came back alive, very few were able to complete the first mission. All of them lost their will to cultivate and break through. They're just like trash. I heard that the first mission is too dangerous. Some elders have already suggested to cancel this mission. Over this month, hundreds of disciples have died in this mission. I heard that too. Those disciples who came back seem to have seen a ghost when they talked about this mission. How terrifying is it inside? When Bailey Tianhai heard this, his heart tightened. Just now, when he checked his task credit, there were only 500 points. To obtain 400 points in such a short period of time. Impossible. Aside from the first mission, which had a high reward from task credit, none of the other missions had a reward of 400 points. Moreover, these missions required a large amount of time to complete and were not something that could be accomplished by just killing a few demon beasts and passing a few tests. This was also Bailey Tianhai's forebrain genius. He had already created history. In less than 2 months' time, he had earned more than 500 points. Not a single person on the top 10 rankings had achieved such a feat. Boom. The task page rumbled. All the disciples in the hall instantly quietened down, because the more they thought about it, the bigger the mission became. The second mission. The Holy Source Flower has been found. How is that possible? Isn't the Holy Source Flower only in the evil valley of the Holy Source? Isn't that a place where humans can enter? Where is the path to hell? There are corpses everywhere, yet someone had gone there and even came out alive. This task hasn't been completed in 9 years. Moreover, this mission, it's unique and unique. The hall was in an uproar once again. Bailey Tianhai was also shocked. His gaze swept across, wanting to know who completed the mission, but at the same time, his heart tightened as he looked at the mission scroll in his hands. He had just accepted the mission of the Holy Source Flower, but this mission was unique. If others had completed it, that would mean that this mission no longer existed. There was no reward for the quest, so even if he completed it, it would be useless. He had originally planned to complete the mission called the Holy Source Flower within 10 days, and then use a few small missions to raise the remaining points. However, from the looks of it, I can't take it anymore. At this moment, a tall woman stepped out of the crowd. It was 2 meters tall and wore a thick braid. The braid reached its thigh and swayed from side to side. His long legs were like ivory chopsticks. His chest was exploding. His eyes were cold. Walking amongst the crowd, he stood out like a crane amongst a flock of chickens. Moreover, wherever she went, the men quickly made way for her. It was she who completed the mission for the Holy Source Flower. She? Who is it? How come I have never seen it before? I have not seen them either, but I heard from the elder that they are disciples who were specially recruited this time. It seems to be people with 2 blood veins. Double blood vein. The first stage is for humans. I don't know about the other stage, but someone who can complete the mission of the Holy Source Flower on their own is definitely not simple. He should be the hot topic for this year's Inner Court Disciple Test. That may not be so. Everyone knows how difficult the Inner Court Disciple exam is. In the past 10 years, the number of people that can pass the exam and enter the Inner Court is only a handful. Bailey Tianhai also looked at the tall woman, and his gaze tightened. There is someone's aura on her, and it's also the aura of a beast. Are they human blood vein and beast blood vein? The aura on her body is too special. This woman is very dangerous. Bailey Tianhai quickly made his judgment. At this time, a foppish and extravagantly dressed disciple brought a group of lackeys over and said, "Junior sister, can we be friends? My name is Nangong Buxing. If you need points, I can." Not waiting for him to finish, the woman coldly said one word, "Scram." One of the lackeys standing behind Nangong Bu said fiercely, "It is your honor that my young master has taken a liking to you. Don't give me face." Pop! The little minion Luo Feng fell to the ground with a thud. His neck twisted. Blood spewed out of his mouth. He was dead. Killing people in the task palace? The surrounding people's expressions all changed. Before anyone could react, the woman coldly said, "Scram." Nangongbu swallowed hard, his eyes fixed on the woman. He said in a deep voice, "You dare to kill." Pa! Another sound. Bam! It was the same for Nangongbu. Her neck rotated at 360 degrees and blood spurted out from her mouth. She fell to the ground lifelessly. He was one of the top outer sect disciples. Although he was not as strong as the top 10 experts, he was still in a master swordsman rank, and with a single move, he was killed. This is a bit abnormal. At this time, an elder in a room of the Task Palace spoke out. "You dare to kill people in the Task Palace. Aren't you looking down on the laws of the ancient antiquity too much?" An elder pulled her back. "Brother Chun, you shouldn't care about this woman." "Huh? Why? Is it just because her cultivation is a bit stronger?" Elder Chun was not convinced. Another elder laughed. "She is not just a bit stronger. She is much stronger, and this is what the higher-ups meant. Do you think she needs to come to this outer sect with her cultivation?" Elder Chun was startled. He thought for a moment and asked, "People from the inner sect?" Another elder laughed. "Not only that, you won't be able to touch her anyway, and your identity won't be able to. I'm doing this for your own good. If you are an iron, then you can go." Elder Chun shook his head repeatedly. "Thank you for your reminder, senior brother. I will definitely remember this favor." Someone from the inner sect. How could he, a outer door presbyter, dare to offend him? Even 10 lives weren't enough. When the woman left the great hall, no one came out to capture her, and no one dared to stop her anymore. Bailey Tianhai turned his head to look at the mission page. The second mission has been completed, and it's hard to complete now. Looking at the first mission, the Heaven-Stealing Court, Bailey Tianhai let out a light breath and walked towards the mission window. He had no other choice. To gather all 900 points, this quest was his only chance. There was only half a month left, and he could only risk his life. Bailey Tianhai brought Zhao Dehan back to his residence. Bailey Tianhai brought Zhao Dehan back to his residence. There were 2 people squatting at the door. In the Brothers of 5 Elements, there were also 2 people who stood on fire and gold at the back of the courtyard. These 4 had been keeping watch here for the past few days. Bailey Tianhai told them to leave, but they did not and stayed put, giving up their cultivation time and completing their missions. They just want to stay here. Even if they couldn't do anything, they would be more at ease here. Even if something happened, they would be the first to go up and fight for their lives. Seeing Bailey Tianhai walking over, Mu stepped forward and slightly bowed. Bailey Tianhai nodded and smiled in return. He walked into the courtyard and sighed. Zhao Dehan said, "Second brother, the 4 of them always guarding here is not a good thing. Their cultivation levels were not good in the first place to spend so much time guarding here. This is too." Bailey Tianhai said, "If they are willing to guard, then let them guard." He didn't want to say anything more. Everyone has their own perseverance. Brothers of 5 Elements was one of them. Maybe. They blamed themselves for long phase coma. They stayed here in order to do their best. They entered the room. Zhao Dehan closed the door. Bailey Tianhai walked to the front of Long Fei's bed and looked at the exhausted phoenix. His heart ached as he said, "Bing Bing, you should go and rest first." For such a long time, the phoenix kept watch beside Long Fei's bed, not leaving even half a step. She was very haggard. His face was a little pale, his lips were dry, and his eyes were dry and dry. He did not seem to be in the least bit energetic. Even if her physique was extraordinary, she was still just a child. After such a long period of suffering, even a god wouldn't be able to withstand it. Phoenix shook her head and said, I'm fine. I'm going to stay here and wait for my honey to wake up." Bailey Tianhai felt his heart ache again as he looked at Long Fei and muttered, "Boss, did you hear that? This silly girl has been waiting for you. How many days has it been?" Long Fei's expression was calm, and there was no response. As Zhao Dehan watched from the side, his tears couldn't help but fall as well. There was a moment of silence. Bailey Tianhai said indifferently, "I've already found some information about what happened in the Fire Bull Valley during this period. After combining it with the information that the inner sect had received from the outer sect during this period of time, I roughly know who injured the boss." Phoenix's pupils suddenly constricted as a cold light flashed through them. The aura emanating from her body abruptly changed as well, causing the temperature of the entire room to rise explosively. In an instant, it was as if the entire room was on fire. Phoenix's eyes turned as she stared at Bailey Tianhai and asked, "Who is it?" Bailey Tianhai stared blankly and subconsciously retreated half a step, not daring to look Phoenix in the eye. It was as if his sea of consciousness was ignited in an instant, which was extremely uncomfortable. He had never seen the look in Phoenix's eyes before. Too terrifying. Zhao Dahan also broke out in cold sweat and did not dare to breathe. Bailey Tianhai said with some difficulty, "Yes, Elder of Inner House, your status is not low. Did you find out his name and address?" Phoenix coldly said. Bailey Tianhai shook his head and said, "Not yet. They were only outer sect disciples and were unable to enter the inner sect. It was extremely difficult for them to find out about the inner sect disciples, and it was also because of Bailey Tianhai's quick and agile brain." Phoenix's aura slightly shrank, and her gaze shifted to Long Fei. She instantly changed into a different person, and with watery eyes, she said softly, "My honey, I will make him pay with his life." Huff! Bailey Tianhai gasped for breath heavily. His back was completely drenched. He knew that the Phoenix was not ordinary. However, he never thought that the Phoenix would be so terrifying that he would be unable to withstand its aura alone. Moreover, he could tell that the Phoenix did not use its full strength. Zhao Dahan panted like a cow as he looked at the Phoenix with both eyes, his heart feeling cold. After Bailey Tianhai regained his composure, he said, "I'm investigating them, and they're also inspecting Big Brother as well. I estimate that it won't be long before they find out about this place." Phoenix indifferently said, "It would be best if we could find this place." His voice was calm, but Bailey Tianhai could hear the killing intent in his voice, that kind of killing intent. If they came, they would die. Bailey Tianhai's mind trembled and said, "Big Sis and I are going to do one last mission, and you must take good care of yourself at home during this period of time. You must be careful." Phoenix nodded her head and said, "I will. You guys be careful too." After she finished speaking, the Phoenix stopped talking, held Long Fei's hand, and said affectionately, "My honey, hurry up and wake up." Bailey Tianhai and Zhao Dahan then left the room. The moment they arrived at the courtyard, both of them lost their footing and almost stepped down. Zhao Dahan sat on the stairs and said, "Second brother, Even his voice was trembling. Thinking back to the moment when he was suppressed by the Phoenix's aura, Zhao Dahan's heart had been trembling. Bailey Tianhai shook his head, signaling for Zhao Dahan to stop. The identity of the Phoenix was extremely special. Even the aura of the King Swordsman Rank's powerhouse could not cause them to feel such fear. This kind of person was definitely not from a mortal world. When Bailey Tianhai thought about divine space, his mind tensed up. This was only his speculation, but he could not say it aloud. This matter was related to the Phoenix, and, similarly, it was related to Long Fei. Huff! Bailey Tianhai exhaled heavily and said, "Boss is definitely not simple. He might also be one of the reincarnation powerhouses who came down a train." Zhao Dahan muttered, "Where is above? Is it the sky?" He looked up at the sky. Bailey Tianhai said, "Don't think too much about it. Having a boss like him is the luckiest thing in our lives." "All right, we're going on a mission." If Bailey Tianhai was still worried at the beginning, then he was not worried at all now. The Phoenix's terrifying strength could be said to be unapproachable for ordinary people. It was even more impossible to harm Long Fei. The Phoenix could give its all for Long Fei. She was fine, but if she wanted to hurt Long Fei, then she couldn't. Just like Long Fei. Boom! Boom! Horcrux's gate, the Inferno Chamber. Dong Tiankui exhaled a heavy breath. His aura was like flames, and his body was ignited with a scarlet-colored flame. With a flip of his right hand, a scarlet-red fire essence slowly rose into the air. The power in his body surged, causing the entire room to turn red from the light. Haha! Fong Wanpeng, you absolutely did not think of this, right? Dong Tiankuei laughed sinisterly. At the same time, his eyebrows twisted. The immortal swordsman rank was his limit. If he wanted to recover back to the king swordsman rank, then he must first obtain the highest grade fire soul on Long Fei's body. It was also at this time. A voice came from outside the secret room. Master, the outer disciple you're looking for has been found. Boom! Boom! Three-rate dragon body, open. Slash! Roar! With the sound of dawn and the furious roar of a dragon, the aura around Long Fei's entire body underwent a drastic change. This kind of feeling was as if a real dragon was in his body. 5 cycles body, the power of the ancient dragon body, this power. It was a little outrageous. The power of the dragon has not disappeared. Haha! It seems like after I break through a whole realm, I'll be able to break through a layer of the dragon's body. Long Fei was now in the big sword sex realm. In just a month's time, he had risen to 7 levels consecutively. It didn't seem like much, but if placed on other martial artists, this sort of speed was already heaven-defying. It was something he didn't even dare to imagine. Long Fei carefully observed the consumption of the ancient dragon body's energy, and at the same time, paid attention to the changes in his body. 1 minute passed, 10 minutes passed, half an hour passed. He was not affected in the slightest. Normally, the 3-rate dragon body would cause a backlash on his body, causing severe pain. However, there wasn't the slightest reaction for the entire half an hour. Can my body withstand the power of the 3-rate dragon body now? Haha, there's no need to worry about it now. Fuck. Long Fei let out a heavy sigh as excitement filled his heart. The power of the 3-rate dragon body was very strong, but it could not sustain for long. If he had the time now, the power would counterattack and seriously injure his body. Not now. His body was already able to completely adapt to the 3-rate dragon body. It's good to have a high level. Long Fei sighed. Let's see if I can walk out of the door of consciousness now. He was still locked inside the gate of consciousness, and his consciousness was unable to leave. He did not know what was happening outside, especially Phoenix. She was the one he was most worried about. Phoenix was very simple. It was very easy to act impulsively if she knew who had injured him. She would really throw caution to the wind. Once his identity was exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. After walking out of the refined space, Long Fei was still in a world of nothingness. The idea moved, and the powerful strength in its body suddenly exploded. Break for me! Rumble! An explosive sound echoed as the power behind the blow was released. However, the gate of consciousness didn't open. Long Fei frowned. 3-rate dragon body, open for me! Buzz! As the dragon roared, the power of Long Fei's body underwent a tremendous change. 5 revolutions physique. Boom! The combination of these 2 powers made him even more ferocious. Break for me! The power was like a missile, striking the door of consciousness and causing it to vibrate, but he had no intention of opening it. Is my strength still not enough? Long Fei tensed up. Level 4 dragon body, go to hell. He forcefully released his power. The level 4 dragon body had never been activated before, but Long Fei wanted to give it a try right now. However, after releasing the power of the level 4 dragon body, Long Fei's body suddenly sank, as if 10 million kilograms of weight was pressing down on his body. At this moment, voila! Like a punctured balloon, the strength in his body disappeared in an instant. Huff, huff! Hoo. Level is still not enough. Long Fei clenched both his fists tightly, and then turned around and stepped into the refined space again. Continue. This time, I'm going to try a different tactic. First grade dragon body, open. He immediately used the power of the ancient dragon body to cultivate. Not only did he train himself, he also trained with the power of the ancient dragon body. Come. Long Fei replied heavily as he entered into his cultivation state. Up. Inner court. Horcrux's Gate Hill. Dong Tiankuei's residence. A disciple followed behind him and reported in detail. According to what you said, we checked all outer sect disciples once, The target has already been confirmed. It's just that the corner of Dong Tiankui's mouth lifted slightly and said, "Just what?" The disciple replied, "It's just that after he returned from Fireball Valley, he was unconscious like a vegetable." Dong Tiankui was startled. "Plant man." Although Long Fei was heavily injured when he left, he would not become a vegetable. The disciple quickly said, after leaving the Fireball Cave, he still encountered the killer's chase. Although the killer died, he was also heavily injured and hasn't woken up for almost 2 months. The killer's identity has been verified. It was ordered by the Intersect Beast Hills Lin Yuan. This guy's name is Long Fei. During the Intersect selection, his blood vein was a trash blood vein. There are 2 other people with him. One is Bailey Tianhai. The other is Zhao Dehan. They are from Sea City, and that person called Bailey Tianhai is from Four Brain Genius. However, he offended the elders from Sword Elf Mountain during the selection, and Zhao Dehan is a huge fool. Other than the 2 of them, there's also a little girl by Long Fei's side. This girl doesn't have much strength. Other than that she can eat, there's nothing else. After Long Fei was heavily injured in Fireball Valley, he was sent back by the 4 disciples Jin, Mu, Hua, and Tuesday. He begged all the elders in the outer sect, and without any of them helping him, I think that the brat probably won't be able to wake up. The disciple said at a moderate pace. It could be said, investigate everything about Long Fei. Dong Tiankui muttered to himself, "You, a mere outer court disciple, actually dares to fight against me? What is your identity?" The disciple thought Dong Tiankui was asking him, so he lowered his head and said he was brought here by an outer sect messenger surnamed Yang. He doesn't have any background, and even the ancient antiquity don't have elders that he knows. However, there's one thing worth mentioning. He went to the South Heaven Gate with Lu Luoshi from the Intersect Sword Elf Mountain and also completed the mission for the South Heaven Gate. Dong Tiankui smirked and said, "Just him, an outer disciple. He can complete the mission? Humph, it's impossible." Just as they were talking, Dong Tiankui's body suddenly trembled. His pupils rapidly dilated as he abruptly sucked in a cold breath of air. Hiss! His thigh was in so much pain that he could barely stand. His cultivation had recovered quite a bit recently, but the hidden ailment on his thigh became even more severe. If he did not obtain that highest grade fire soul, his cultivation would probably be. Thinking of this, a cold intent burst out of Dong Tiankui's eyes. He said indifferently, "Go and call the 3rd elder over." The disciple respectfully replied, "Yes." Not long later, a middle-aged man walked into the courtyard. He crossed his arms and greeted, "Sect leader." Dong Tiankui said, "OL3, I need you to help me with something." The man was startled and immediately stepped forward. "Elder brother, go ahead." Both of their identities were not ordinary. Moreover, some things that couldn't be exposed to the light were done by OL3. Dong Tiankui said, "I want you to make a trip to the outer sect. Help me capture a person, a vegetable." "Senior brother, we've found it. Senior brother, we've found it. It's just as you said, those impossible missions that were close to a month and a half were all completed by Bailey Tianhai and the big guy beside him, in a luxurious courtyard in the outer court." Hearing this, Lin Yuan laughed coldly. "Do you really want to turn the sky upside down? I've said it before, if you can enter the inner court, I'll give you my surname." Lin Yuan said coldly. Long Fei was already crippled and turned into a vegetable. Now, only Bailey Tianhai and Zhao Dehan were left. Actually, compared to Long Fei, he was more worried about Bailey Tianhai because his 4-brain inherent skill was too strong. If he were to enter the intersect, he would definitely be recognized by many elders. At that time, his position would soar to the heavens, and he might even become someone on side. He was not going to let this happen. Lin Yuan said, "Have you all gathered?" The disciple crossed his arms and said, "Yes, we are all here, and will follow your orders at any time." Lin Yuan smiled slightly and said, "Very good. Didn't he want to gather all his task credit to participate in the intersect examination? Then I'll let you have no points at all. I'll let you know what despair is. Ha ha! Lin Yuan laughed loudly. Killing was worse than killing the heart. Killing Bailey Tian Hai didn't bring him much pleasure, but it would be different if he made Bailey Tian Hai fall into despair. He liked to see the despair of others. There was still half a month before the intersect examination. If one didn't have enough points, they didn't have the qualifications to participate. When the time came, he could only foolishly watch others take the exam. The first year, Lin Yuan could do this. The second year, the third year, he would be able to do it every single year from now on, and he would definitely not allow Bailey Tian Hai and the other two to step even half a step into the intersect. I will completely crush you. South Heaven Gate. Right now, this place had already been broken through by Long Fei. As long as they could climb up to the South Heaven Gate, they could enter the second stage of the quest, the Heavenly Court. The second mission, seize the heavens. You have to kill everyone in the Heavenly Court in order to take it, or something else. Over the past month, many disciples had not even been able to get a good idea of what was going on, much less provide a strategy for what to do. Everyone had to fumble their way in. There were no clues. Run, run, leave this place. Flee. A disciple of the ancient antiquity was rolling and crawling. His eyes were filled with fear. His entire person did not have the image of a warrior. He was so scared that his face was pale, and he rolled down the stairs. Zhao Dehan wanted to step forward to support him, but the moment the disciple saw Zhao Dehan, his body trembled even more uncontrollably, and he cried out, "Ah!" He jumped to the other side and quickly escaped. His entire being had become delirious. Zhao Dehan still had lingering fear in his heart as he said, "Second brother, what exactly is inside?" Bailey Tianhai's gaze tensed up. He had just observed the disciple carefully. The master swordsman rank, his cultivation was not weak, but the chi on his body could not even reach the level of a warrior. It was as though he was an untrained person. Trembling? All of his power was being suppressed. Bailey Tianhai looked at the door that was separated by a few pillars and said softly, "No matter what, we have to go in. This is our last hope." In this half a month, even if they did not stop accepting missions, they might not be able to gather 900 points. This was their only hope. Zhao Dehan nodded heavily and said, "I'll listen to second brother." And then he strode forward. Bailey Tianhai carefully observed every single detail in the surroundings and continuously calculated in his mind. Standing at the gate, Zhao Dehan said, "Second brother, I'll go in first. If there's no danger inside, I'll come out and get you." With that, he walked into the heaven fairyland. Buzz! A ray of light engulfed Zhao Dehan's figure. Bailey Tianhai walked in quickly and looked around to feel for a bit. A boundary? Boundary? After stopping for half a minute, without seeing Zhao Dehan coming out, Bailey Tianhai frowned and immediately stepped in. Buzz! His body was swallowed up by the light. The next second, his eyes subconsciously closed because the strong light was blinding. It made people unable to open their eyes. Moreover, the strong light was not Shunabai's light, nor was it the strong sunlight, but was instead the glaring, scarlet golden light of the laser. Bailey Tianhai blocked it with his sleeves and opened his eyes. It was at this time that Zhao Dehan, who was standing not far away, muttered, "Second brother, this place, here, is it hell?" He was stunned on the spot. He looked at the distant mountains of corpses, at the river of blood, and at the ground littered with white bones. This world, just like hell. The earth was as red as blood, and the blood-red light was reflected in the air. The blood-red light that was reflected in the air seemed like a mirror, making it hard for one's eyes to withstand it. Bailey Tianhai slowly got used to the surging holy source. Seeing the scene in front of him clearly, he was as stunned as Zhao Dehan was. "This? Heavenly Court? Are you sure this isn't hell?" The scene in front of their eyes caused their scalps to go numb. Corpses were everywhere, and they were still moving towards the mountain of corpses. The mountain of corpses formed a giant pyramid, with countless corpses constantly climbing upwards. Above the pyramid was a bloody eye. His eyes suddenly opened and closed. It was like a blood-red flame was burning. Too terrifying. Bailey Tianhai was already prepared. His stomach rolled and almost vomited a few times, causing his face to turn pale white. Zhao Dahan's face did not look good either. Second brother, what do we do now? Bailey Tianhai forced himself to hold back and said, since you're already here, no matter what, you have to give it your all. He looked at the red eye on the corpse mountain and said, the heaven-seizing court should be the red eye. As long as you get the red eye, you should pass the mission. All the corpses here should also disappear. Zhao Dahan said, I will lead the way, find a chance to get the red eye. As soon as he finished, the heaven fairyland suddenly shook. The red eye at the top of the mountain of corpses suddenly opened its eyes angrily. Its pupils were like lightning, staring at Bailey Tianhai and Bailey Tianhai. It was also at this moment. The 10,000 corpses roared, letting out waves of ghost-like wails. All the corpses suddenly turned and stared at Bailey Tianhai and Bailey Tianhai. Oh woo, woo woo woo. All of the zombie-s rushed towards Bailey Tianhai. Zhao Dahan's hand sank, boom, boom. His arm was covered with granite as the corner of his mouth slightly hooked up. He excitedly smiled and said, come. Bailey Tianhai looked at the red eye and thought, as expected, it can command and control these dead bodies. You idiot. Make way. Bailey Tianhai let out a deep sound as all the power in his body surged and was completely released. As long as I obtain the red eye, I can pass this trial and get 900 points. Let's fight. Brother Zhong, when are we going in? What's the hurry? Let them consume their energy first. Outside the South Heaven Gate, the second-placed powerhouse, Zhong Qi, on the list of the 10 strongest warriors in the outer sect. He stood in front of the door with a cold smile on his face, quietly waiting. Rumble, rumble, great rock smash. Zhao Dahan roared. His arms swept out horizontally, and a strong power of the rocks charged out. Bang, bang, bang. A series of corpses were blown away. Zhao Dahan rushed forward, but he did not even take 3 steps forward before another wave of corpses rushed towards him. Ah! His right fist smashed down, boom. With his head smashed apart, Zhao Dahan kicked his leg out. Not waiting for 2 seconds, the headless body crawled back up again. Resurrection. It wasn't resurrection. It was simply impossible to kill. Zhao Dahan was shocked in his heart and said, second brother, can we kill these monsters? Bailey Tianhai could sense that these corpses did not know of the pain. Even if their heads were to be decapitated, they would not die, and losing their limbs would not have any effect. These corpses are a little strange. Bailey Tianhai's brows tightened and said, push forward faster. As long as we can obtain the red-eyed eye, these corpses will naturally disintegrate. Zhao Dahan nodded heavily. Amen. Second brother, I'll lead the way. You save energy. With that, Zhao Dahan charged towards the group of corpses. He stabbed both his hands into the ground and shouted, Yin Qua. Explode. Green veins bulged all over his body, and his granite strength gushed into the ground. The stone pillars kept thrusting up, sending those corpses flying. At the same time, Bailey Tianhai stepped on the protruding stone pillars and continued to rush towards the corpse mountain. Zhao Dahan also quickly followed. There were stone pillars protruding from the ground, each higher than the last. In the blink of an eye, he had already reached the edge of the corpse mountain. Standing on top of a 100-meter tall stone pillar, Bailey Tianhai looked at his red eyes that were filled with anger. Break! He took a step forward and then flew up into the air. He suddenly took a step in the air, schwa. He flew up once more, his body constantly fluctuating in mid-air, as though every step he took landed on a rock. As he flew higher and higher, he was able to reach the height parallel to the red eye in just a few seconds. His body floated. Bailey Tianhai said excitedly, Take him down. He moved his body and flew towards the red eye. However, suddenly, the top of his head went dark. Bailey Tianhai tensed up. He did not have time to react. Pong! An extremely strong force crushed down, and his body was instantly sent flying, heavily smashing on the ground. Puff! A mouthful of blood sprayed out. Zhao Dahan was already surrounded by the zombie. Seeing Bailey Tianhai being blasted down, his entire body was scarlet red as he grabbed the ground and shook. Earth ripple. Walala. A string of zombie unsteadily fell to the ground. Zhao Dahan quickly rushed towards Bailey Tianhai. Humph! Puny human! A thunderous voice sounded in the sky. The moment the voice fell, a huge black figure flashed. Rumble. A powerful surge of power poured down. Bang! Boom! Bailey Tianhai's pupils tightened. Zhao Dahan shouted madly. Rock realm. Rumble. With him at the center, numerous rocks that looked like afterimages appeared one after another. These rocks formed a rock boundary that protected Bailey Tianhai inside. Bam! Rumble! Under the force of the impact, Zhao Dahan's body sank, and his knees fell to the ground from the impact as he vomited a mouthful of blood. The stone world shattered. However, he managed to block this attack. He blocked it. I do have a bit of defense, but this move, I want all of you to die. The shadow suddenly pressed down like a black cloud descending. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Thunder raged. Lightning crackled and exploded. There was a huge lightning field in the sky above Bailey Tianhai and Yu Yang. It was filled with destructive power. Even so, the zombies still rushed towards them, disregarding everything else. Bailey Tianhai quickly crawled up from the ground and leapt to Zhao Dahan's side. Supporting him up, he said, Lightning Farm, quickly run. Zhao Dahan also realized the danger. He stood up and punched out with both of his fists. Both fists were like a torrential storm striking out, directly striking a path out of the group of zombie. Bailey Tianhai followed along, his eyes looking up into the sky, his mind thinking continuously. Ha ha ha! Lowly humans, you won't be able to escape. 10,000 lightning strikes. Fall for me. Laughing wildly, the entire world changed colors. In a lightning field, a bolt of lightning struck down, followed by a torrential downpour of lightning without any blind spots. Rumble, rumble, tens of thousands of thunderbolts poured down. The power of annihilation was unleashed without end. As long as the lightning bolt touched the minefield would instantly be destroyed. Those zombies were turned into powder one by one. Even if they were indestructible, it didn't matter. They would just turn into dust. Bailey Tianhai looked at the scene before him as cold sweat trickled out of his forehead. Looking at the zombie that had been turned into dust, his four brains started working like a computer. Suddenly, Bailey Tianhai said, The sky. Zhao Dahan was startled. Second brother, what did you say? Bailey Tianhai said, Da Shu, how many times can your rock energy withstand the attack? Zhao Dahan said, 2 or 3 times should be fine, right? All right, listen to my command. While speaking, Bailey Tianhai grabbed Zhao Dahan's arm and lowered his body, then suddenly flung him into the air. Hula! He threw it into the air. Bailey Tianhai's body moved. Break! Zhao Dahan had already been struck by the lightning, causing him to spurt out a mouthful of blood. The instant his body landed, he was once again caught by Bailey Tianhai and once again was flung into the air. This time, he threw it straight into the dark clouds, where it was filled with raging lightning. Bailey Tianhai flew into the dark clouds, grabbed the Zhao Dahan whose body was covered with lightning, and threw him again. This time, he flew directly to the top of the black cloud. Zhao Dahan said excitedly, Second brother, there is no lightning here. Bailey Tianhai also flew up and said excitedly, So it's like that. However, not far from them, the red eye was staring straight at Bailey Tianhai. A shadow flashed. Bang, bang. The 2 palms blasted them away. The 2 of them fell onto the stairs, blood gushing out. The black shadow charged forward. Instantly, it charged toward the 2 of them. Zhao Dahan let out a furious roar. His entire body turned into rocks, and he threw a few punches at the black figure. Then, she grabbed Bailey Tianhai and ran out of the heavenly court. As long as they escaped from the heavenly court, they would be fine. Now, they finally knew why those people that came out of the heavenly court turned into that. The heavenly court was not a place for people to stay. Huff, huff, whoosh, whoosh. Second brother, we escaped. Zhao Dahan rushed out of the heaven fairyland and sat on the ground with Bailey Tianhai in his arms. Bailey Tianhai's eyes turned cold. In front of them, Zhongqi had a complacent sneer at the corner of his mouth as he stood quietly in front of them. Bailey Tianhai did not recognize Zhongqi, but Zhongqi recognized him. Bailey Tianhai did not recognize Zhongqi, but Zhongqi recognized him. Seeing the cold smile on Zhongqi's face, Bailey Tianhai's heart tensed up. He revealed a respectful smile. "Senior brother, are you here to complete the mission too?" Zhao Dahan's eyes trembled. He had never seen Bailey Tianhai smile at a stranger. He did not recognize Zhongqi, but he could immediately tell from her eyes. His body moved closer to Bailey Tianhai. Zhongqi bent down and laughed sinisterly. "You are right. I am indeed here to complete a mission." The lackeys behind him also laughed. Bailey Tianhai said, "It's very dangerous inside. Senior brother, you must be careful." He still pretended that he didn't understand anything. Zhongqi glanced over and glanced at the entrance of the Heaven Fairyland. At this moment, Bailey Tianhai's reaction was extremely fast. He released all of the power in his body and locked onto a spot, then smashed his fist on Zhongqi's temple. Voila! A piercing sound rang out. This fist was extremely fierce. In the blink of an eye, Zhongqi was slightly distracted, and it was also because of this instant that Bailey Tianhai smashed his fist out. The temple was one of the weakest spots in a person's defense. Once it was struck, the person's head would be severely injured, and even if they didn't die, they would still be crippled. One punch kill. Zhongqi's pupils suddenly contracted. His reaction was also limited, and the moment a trace of energy fluctuations appeared in the air, he suddenly used both of his hands to block it. He placed a palm on his temple. Bam! The punch landed. Zhongqi's body immediately tumbled out. "Boss! Senior brother!" A few of the lackeys stared blankly. While they were in a daze, Bailey Tianhai's heart tightened. That punch just now. Logically speaking, Zhongqi should not be able to react at such a close distance, but he was still able to block it. The top 10 outer sect experts were ranked second. He definitely wasn't bragging about his strength. That kind of superhuman reaction, even Bailey Tianhai himself wouldn't be able to do it. After his fist was blocked, Bailey Tianhai knew that he was no longer able to attack, and subconsciously said to Zhao Dahan, "Run." Zhao Dahan also reacted. He helped Bailey Tianhai up, and with a flick of his body, he immediately flew out. Boom! Zhao Dahan suddenly struck a power barrier. With a roar, Zhongqi stood up. The veins on his forehead started to bulge. All the energy on his body was ignited. He stared at Bailey Tianhai and bellowed, "Do you think you guys can escape?" Rumble, rumble. The aura released from his body rumbled. Zhongqi was furious to the extreme. His entire body seemed to be burning with flames. And after that roar, his body fiercely jumped up high in the air. Looking down from above, his fist struck at Zhao Dahan. Roar! In the air, Zhongqi's figure turned into a fierce tiger. He was also an ancient Empyrean, the awakened power of a tiger. With a loud tiger's roar, he leapt down from the ground, crushing down with his overwhelming strength. Zhao Dahan's pupils tightened as he protected Bailey Tianhai. His entire body had turned into granite. Bam! Rumble! His strength exploded outwards. Zhongqi lightly bounced to the side, and the corner of his mouth revealed a cold, disdainful smile. "Just this kind of defense? You dare to fight against me head-on? Kacha! Walala!" With the sound of rocks shattering, pieces of the granite on Zhao Dahan's body broke off, peeling off his body. He spat out a few mouthfuls of black blood, and his face turned pale white. Bailey Tianhai said solemnly, "You idiot." Zhao Dahan wiped the blood off his mouth and said, I'm fine. Are you all right? Then I'll see how many times you can resist. Zhongqi sneered. His fists moved. The tiger claws appeared. His figure moved so. The figure disappeared. Boom! In a flash, he appeared in front of Zhao Dehan and violently smashed at Zhao Dehan's chest with both of his hands. Splash, splash, splash. Splash, splash, splash. Zhongqi's hands were like sharp claws, slashing at Zhao Dehan's chest like blades. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of deep wounds could be seen on his chest, and his bones were visible. Fresh blood gushed out of his wounds. Uff! Zhao Dehan spat out a mouthful of blood. You idiot! Bailey Tianhai roared. He sprung his body, locked his eyes on Zhongqi, and quickly attacked. With just you. Lie down. Zhongqi's body flipped. He leapt into the air and swept his right leg downwards. Bam! With a kick on Bailey Tianhai's neck, Bailey Tianhai fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Puff. This kick almost broke Bailey Tianhai's neck. Bailey Tianhai couldn't get up. Zhao Dehan was on the verge of collapse, but he still wanted to protect Bailey Tianhai. However, without waiting for him to reach Bailey Tianhai's side, Zhongqi turned his body and kicked, directly aiming at Zhao Dehan's chest. Boom! Zhao Dehan flew out. His body caved in, and his entire body sank into the rocks. Black blood continuously flowed out of his mouth, and his body didn't move at all. Zhongqi walked to Bailey Tianhai's side and said sinisterly, "Do you think you can still sneak attack me?" Bam! A heavy kick landed on Bailey Tianhai's head. Bailey Tianhai's head sank as fresh blood gushed out. Bailey Tianhai said, "If you want to kill them, then hurry up." At this moment, he knew he would not survive. If he was going to be humiliated, it would be better to die early. Zhongqi laughed coldly. "Do you want to die? Ha ha ha. You want to die, but you let me. Take out your contribution points token." Bailey Tianhai's gaze tightened and said, "If you want to kill me, kill me. I don't have any points plates." Zhongqi kicked Bailey Tianhai off his seat, walked up to Bailey Tianhai, and took out 2 contribution points tablets from within his bosom. The corner of his mouth hooked up as he said, "You want to gather all of your points to participate in the inner sect examination? Keep dreaming. Only trash like you want to participate in the examination. Humph. Do you even know how powerful you are?" Zhongqi played with the 2 points medallions in his hand with a face full of disdain. Bailey Tianhai's gaze tensed up. It was also at this time. The power that was used on the palm of Zhongqi's hand was great. Bang, bang. The contribution point token broke into pieces and slid down from the gaps between his fingertips, landing on Bailey Tianhai's face. Ha ha! Ha ha! Zhongqi laughed out loud. The group of lackeys behind him also laughed. "Take the examination. Enter the inner sect. Useless. You think you're worthy?" Ha ha! He mocked crazily. Bailey Tianhai's eyes were blazing, his fists clenched tightly, but he was not rash, because he only had one thing he had to do, and that was to preserve his life, to not die. Everything was possible with only one life. With his life, he would have the chance to take revenge. Bailey Tianhai said fiercely, "If I don't take revenge, I will not be a human." Zhongqi looked at Bailey Tianhai with disdain and said, "Trash, just obediently stay in the outer sect. You will never be able to enter the inner sect in this lifetime." Ha ha. Zhongqi did not kill Bailey Tianhai. Zhongqi did not kill Bailey Tianhai. Based on his personality, Bailey Tianhai and Yushan were definitely going to die. However, he had brought a mission with him, and the mission clearly stated that Bailey Tianhai was not to be killed. That was why he didn't kill him. Otherwise, if Bailey Tianhai ambushed him, he definitely would not tolerate it. Breaking the points medallion into pieces also meant that Bailey Tianhai's task credit had been reduced to 0. There were still 10 days before he would not be able to gather enough points and would not have the qualifications to participate in the examination. It was actually very easy to die alone. However, death and despair were even more painful. Moreover, it was the kind of situation where one could see hope and try harder to win, but suddenly falling into a bottomless abyss and sinking into great despair was the most painful thing. Killing someone, killing their heart. What Lin Yuan wanted was death, and what he wanted was to cause Bailey Tianhai to fall into despair. And it was despair in an infinite cycle. He would not give Bailey Tianhai any chance. He wouldn't even give her a chance. Zhongqi walked away with a smile on his face. Bailey Tianhai clenched his teeth so hard that his teeth made popping sounds. He wanted to crawl up, but his whole body was severely injured. His hands were propping up, his arms were trembling, and he suddenly fell to the ground again. Ah! He bellowed. Helplessness, unwillingness, it was all despair. After working hard for so long and seeing the light of dawn, he suddenly fell into darkness. The mission was not completed, and the points were gone. All of a sudden, he had nothing. He began to think that even if they couldn't gather task credit with their current points, they would be able to let Long Fei participate in the intersect examination. Now, nothing. Why? Bailey Tianhai shouted crazily. He thought that Zhongqi was only being ordered around by someone. There was still someone backing him. Was it Lin Yuan? Or an elder of the Sword Elf Mountain? Bailey Tianhai's heart was in extreme pain. Zhao Dehan was on the verge of death. Rumble. It was raining cats and dogs, and the two of them looked like orphans under the heavy rain. Rumble, rumble, rumble. At the outer sect of ancient antiquity, heavy rain poured down and lightning raged. At the entrance to Long Fei's courtyard, Jean and Mu stood guard at the entrance to the yard. Their bodies were already soaked, but they did not leave. Their eyes swept over the darkness. Walala! A bolt of lightning struck down. The sky seemed to have split open. Shunao Bai's light shone out. Their eyes suddenly narrowed. A middle-aged man wearing a black robe stood there. It suddenly appeared. Who is it? The man did not respond. The lightning disappeared, and the area was shrouded in darkness. Mu's aura was released. He wanted to capture that person's aura, but he didn't sense anything. Was that a human? Mu muttered. Jean said, "Are our eyes playing tricks on us?" Mu replied, "Regardless of all that, we should just be a bit more careful." Walala! Another bolt of lightning struck down. The two of them looked at the spot where the lightning had struck and saw that the black figure had already disappeared. Just as the two of them felt slightly relieved, the eyes of the duo quivered, and a cold shiver went down their spines. Gudong! Gudong! The two of them swallowed their saliva and looked behind them. Rumble! Lightning streaked across the sky. The black shadow man was standing right behind them, his aura directly crushing them so that they couldn't move at all. Bang, bang. Both palms moved, directly striking the two, and they both flew out. The middle-aged man stood at the entrance to the yard without even turning his head around. He didn't even look at the two men as he stared at the brightly lit room. He took a step forward. Rumble! As the lightning struck down, the middle-aged man's state of mind suddenly became chaotic, and his foot that was in the way suddenly shrank. What's going on? His heart skipped a beat. A chill went up his spine. It was as if this courtyard had an exceptionally dangerous aura. What realm was he in? First level of King Swordsman. In the outer sect, no one was his match. Even if the entire outer sect combined forces, they still wouldn't be his match. In the outer sect, what was there to be afraid of? After pausing for a few seconds, he released his aura and directly sensed every single room in the courtyard. At this moment, this was his territory. There was a flower, a blade of grass, a table, and not even a drop of rain could escape his senses. Besides the two trash in the backyard, there's only one other person in the whole yard. Lying on the bed. It should be the boy that Big Brother is looking for, right? His breathing is stable, his breathing is weak, and his body can't move. It's like he's in deep sleep, and that kid should be him. The man thought to himself, didn't the information say that there was a personal maid? Forget it. He didn't think too much about it. It didn't matter if he had a personal maid. Rumble! With another flash of lightning, the man stepped into the courtyard. This time, his heart sank again, and the chill grew even stronger. It was as if he had stepped into a land of death. The man's forehead tightened, and a wave of rage surged in his heart. A mere outer court disciple, I think you can make a flower out of it." Although he said that, he was very cautious in his heart. He released his aura. His body seemed to be covered with an air shield. The raindrops upon contact with his body, and they immediately spread out. The more he walked into the room, the more pressured he felt, and no matter how calm he was, it was useless. When he arrived at the door, even his breathing became hurried. Huff, huff, huff. The man tightly furrowed his brows. His eyes revealed an evil glint as he shouted, "I'd like to see what kind of sacred being is inside." He kicked it. At this moment, the door automatically opened. A young girl of 11 or 12 years old stood in front of the door, her eyes raised. At this moment, the man's eyes were tightly locked, and cold sweat instantly broke out on his forehead. He clearly didn't sense the aura of a servant girl. And what was more important was, the little girl's pupils were not human eyes at all. It was the rainbow eyes. The man wanted to speak, but the little girl's figure moved, shooting out a strange thing from her body, a multicolored feather. The feather flashed. Whoosh! Crack! The man's head fell to the ground, and he rolled a few times. His eyes were glaring furiously at the phoenix. Phoenix's pupils slowly contracted as she coldly said, "Anyone who dares to touch my husband will die." Then, she turned around and returned to Long Fei's bedside. The door closed automatically. The man's body slightly trembled, and he fell to the ground with a bang. Blood gushed out. He didn't even know how he died. King Swordsman rank could also be considered powerhouse. However, in the eyes of the people of divine space, the powerhouse of the mortal world were like ants. This was the difference between humans and gods. In another place, a black shadow suddenly descended, and its black pupils changed into white pupils. After pausing for a few seconds, the corner of its mouth curled into a smile as it said, "Found it." The heavy rain continued all night and did not stop until dawn. The heavy rain continued all night and did not stop until dawn. Fire, Earth found the two Gold Moo people. Their bodies were almost washed away by the water. After some healing, they finally woke up. "Hurry, boss is in danger." King woke up with the first words. Moo also said frantically, "Quickly go." When they entered the courtyard, they saw that the blood had already dried up and that the man's body was split into two halves, their pupils constricted. Looking at the man's clothes under the black robe, the two of them felt a chill in their hearts. Elder of Inner House, this is bad. And then, the two of them did not have any time to think, and each carried a piece of the corpse as they ran out. He threw it down the cliff behind him. Huff, huff. After doing all of this, the two of them were already drenched in sweat and sat together as if they were completely exhausted. With lingering fear in their hearts, they asked, "Elder of Inner House, is this really Elder of Inner House? The boss hasn't woken up yet. Who killed him?" "It's that." Phoenix's figure appeared in his mind. He did not say out loud. Instead, he heavily swallowed his saliva because he could not imagine that a lowly was actually a superpower house. Don't think too much into it. We don't care who he is. All we have to do is protect our boss. Jean laughed bitterly. With this powerhouse here, do we still need our protection? Actually, they had been here for more than a month, day and night, just to have peace of mind. Some are deceiving themselves, but their hearts will feel better. Their protection now seemed a little ridiculous. They couldn't even be considered cannon fodder. At the very least, they could still get their hands on cannon fodder. What about them? He didn't even have the right to charge forward. He didn't feel good in his heart. However, they didn't waver their resolve to continue working under him. I wonder who this Elder of Inner House is. Fire let out a breath and looked at the bottomless abyss. In the depths of the abyss, a mournful wail could be heard as a black shadow turned over slightly. It didn't wait for the two corpses to hit the ground before devouring them. He said, "The last time I heard that Horcrux's Gate Hills Peak owner, Dong Tinke, escaped back from Fire Cow Valley after being heavily injured. Could it be related to Boss? So you're saying that the elder who died just now was from Horcrux's Gate? Could Dong Tinkue have been injured by Boss?" Thinking of this, Both of them felt their scalps go numb. The more they thought about it, the more terrifying they felt. He didn't dare to think any further. In the room, the phoenix returned back to its lowly look, grabbed Long Fei's hand and muttered, "My honey, I was wrong. Apologize immediately." Because she had promised Long Fei that she wouldn't use her own strength, and she wouldn't become a phoenix. Just now, she had used the power of the phoenix feather. One-hit kill. In the mortal world, there were very few powerhouse that could resist such power. A powerhouse of the King Swordsman realm was an existence that could be killed instantly. I just used my own power. I failed to do what I promised you. I'm sorry. However, no one is allowed to hurt you. Whoever dares to hurt you, I will make sure he disappears from this world. My honey, wake up quickly. How is it? As Phoenix spoke, her eyes were filled with tears. After waiting for more than a month, her heart was in pain. She regretted following Long Fei to Firebowl Valley. In that case, no one could injure Long Fei to this extent. With her here, she wouldn't let Long Fei get injured no matter what. So what if he exposed himself? So what if those men in black found him? She didn't care. She had been suppressing her emotions for such a long time. When that elder appeared, she had killed him in a single move without any hesitation. The power of the phoenix feathers was unstoppable. However, this sort of divine power could be easily discovered by others. Within a circumference of 100,000 kilometers, as long as the powerhouse with divine space were here, they would be able to sense it immediately. Phoenix didn't think too much about it. He only wanted to kill those people who were bullying Long Fei. My honey, wake up quickly. You've slept too long. I really want to eat the meat you grilled. I want to. Phoenix grabbed Long Fei's hand and rested it against her cheek as she softly said that. It was unknown if it was because she was too tired or something, but she slowly fell asleep. It was also at this time. Long Fei lightly moved one of his fingers. Ah! Long Fei roared. Rank 4 dragon body, go to hell. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The voice was like a thunderclap, unceasingly wreaking havoc, and dragon roars rang out. Powerful energy unceasingly surged out from Long Fei's body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. One ring, one ring. Long Fei's body felt like it was surrounded by a giant dragon and its power. This feeling, it felt so good. Ha ha! Long Fei laughed. It did not disappear. The power of the rank 4 dragon body has not disappeared. Done. If the power of a rank 4 dragon could be unleashed, then that meant that his physical body had become even stronger. At this moment, his level was already Master Swordsman rank. Huff, huff. Long Fei's breathing became heavier. The power of a rank 4 dragon was not bad, but right now, his physical body was still unable to endure this kind of power. The power was great, but if he continued to open his body wouldn't be able to withstand it. There's a time limit. However, Long Fei didn't think too much about it at the moment. Long Fei walked out of the refined space, looked at the huge door of consciousness, and said excitedly, "Can I break through this barrier now?" He wanted to get out now. He wanted to regain his senses. He wanted to live to come back to life. He had been here too long. He didn't know how long, and the feeling of being separated from the outside world made him uneasy. He was worried about Phoenix, worried about Luluashi. He was also worried about his other brothers. He had to get out. Rank 4 dragon body, open, rumble. Long Fei stood under the huge door of consciousness and roared. The strong wind beneath his feet immediately raged and white flames burst out. A 4th rank dragon. He had never opened it. Now that he had opened it and clenched both his hands, it was as if what he was holding was not strength, but a powerful world. Long Fei stared at the huge door and moved his body. Boom! His figure disappeared. It instantly landed in front of the door of consciousness and heavily shouted, "Break for me!" He punched forward. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The gate of consciousness trembled, but did not break at the first possible moment. Long Fei frowned. Still can't do it? I will not hesitate. Long Fei's body bounced off and landed on the ground. He didn't want to wait any longer. He was afraid that he would go crazy if he continued to stay. His eyes darkened. Long Fei looked at the door of consciousness and shouted in his heart, "Power of eternity, open for me." Infinite boxing. Boom, boom. I'm going for broke. I'm going for broke. He had stayed here for too long. Long Fei really wanted to know about the situation outside. He wanted to know if he was still alive. He could not feel his own body. He was just like a lone soul wild ghost. If this continued, he would really go crazy. Bam! Bam! When the power of eternity gushed out, Long Fei's power became even stronger. Boom! Boom! The infinite boxing was summoned by Long Fei. Looking at the gigantic boxing glove, Long Fei clenched it tightly with his right hand, stared at the door of consciousness, and said, "This father shall see just how hard you are. Come." With all his firepower, Long Fei leaped forward. A heavy punch was delivered. "Live! You must live." The word Bailey Tianhai had said to him the most during this period of time was live. It was also the word he said the most to Zhao Dehan. "Hey, did you hear that? You have to live. You have to live. Do you hear me?" Bailey Tianhai carried Zhao Dehan on his back. Zhao Dehan's face was pale white, and his breath flowed like gossamer threads. He looked like a dead man. In a heaven fairyland, he used his own body to defend against the powerful attack, causing all the granite on his body to shatter. He was bombarded again in the lightning field. Even so, he still protected Bailey Tianhai with all his might. After being injured so heavily by Zhongqi in 2 moves, his body had basically become crippled. Bailey Tianhai didn't care about the relationship between brothers. He had promised Bailey Tianhai's father that he would definitely protect him well. He was bullied since he was young and was not treated as a human. Only Bailey Tianhai protected him, taught him cultivation, taught him how to retaliate. Bailey Tianhai was extremely special to him. "Did you hear that? You must live." Bailey Tianhai carried Zhao Dehan on his back and slowly walked towards a teleportation circle outside Nantian City. He crawled on the ground, 1 blood seal at a time. While he was speaking, his body suddenly sank down, almost falling to the ground. His arms couldn't support it anymore and trembled nonstop. However, blood dripped from the corner of his mouth as he heavily said, "Bailey Tianhai, you have to live for this daddy as well. Only by living can I take revenge. Only by living can we take back everything. You must live." Bailey Tianhai said heavily. He was afraid that he could not take it, that he would fall, that he would not be able to take revenge, that he would disappear from this world. "I am Bailey Tianhai. I am the 4-brain genius. I am the arrogant Bailey Tianhai." Bailey Tianhai roared in his heart. In his entire life, he had never encountered any major setbacks. In the Sea City, he could cover the sky with 1 hand. In the ancient antiquity, there were many geniuses, but so what? He, Bailey Tianhai, could not accept these people. Roared out heavily. From the South Heaven Gate, he did not know how long it took for him to reach here. As long as he entered the portal, he would be able to survive. Cough, cough, cough. Zhao Dehan coughed continuously and said weakly, "Second brother, put me down. Don't worry about me. I can't take it anymore. Carrying me on your back will only implicate you." Cough, cough, cough. As he spoke, he coughed a series of mouthfuls of black blood. "What nonsense are you talking about? We are brothers. Do you understand? We're brothers," Bailey Tianhai said heavily. It was simply impossible for him to abandon Zhao Dehan. Even if he were to die, he had to die together with Zhao Dehan. He didn't quite understand the meaning of the word brother previously, but he understood it after meeting Long Fei. "Brother, we shall live and die together. Brother, if you don't want to, then do it. Brother, laugh and die together. Brother, don't abandon me, don't give up," Bailey Tianhai said. "Even if I die, I will carry you back. You better cheer up and live a good life, understand?" Looking at the teleportation circle in the distance, Bailey Tianhai clenched his teeth and crawled forward step by step. "Live. You must live. Haha. Well done. Zhongqi, don't worry. I will inform Master about the intersect examination. At that time, You will pass without a hitch." As Lin Yuan laughed, Bailey Tianhai's expression of despair surfaced in his mind, and he couldn't help but feel even better. Zhongqi's eyes lit up, and he said, "Thank you, senior brother." Lin Yuan replied, "Amen. In the future, be obedient and enter the inner sect. You can have anything you want." Zhongqi said excitedly, "I will listen to you." As long as he could enter the inner sect, he would be willing to kill people, let alone steal a few contribution points plates. In the ancient antiquity, the difference between the inner and outer sect disciples was like the difference between heaven and earth. They were two completely different worlds. The outer sect was the same as the ordinary world. Only the inner sect could be considered as the real ancient antiquity. Lin Yuan nodded in satisfaction and asked, "Are the two of them dead yet?" Zhongqi said, "They definitely aren't dead yet, but I wonder if they'll be able to come back." Lin Yuan laughed and said, "It's best if he's alive. This year will make him fall into despair, and next year will be the same. As long as he's an ancient antiquity for a year, he shouldn't even think of entering the inner sect. Ha ha ha! Fight with me. You are still young. Ha ha!" Lin Yuan laughed out arrogantly. He would definitely not give Bailey Tianhai any hope. Once Bailey Tianhai entered the inner sect, if many elders knew about his existence in the four-brain genius, then he would definitely receive high regard and might even directly enter the main hall. It would be difficult to deal with them when the time came. However, now, Bailey Tianhai was in the outer sect. Even if the outer sect was a dragon, they would still have to lie on the ground. Kneel in front of him. Lin Yuan laughed proudly. Horcrux's Gate Hill. Within the fiery chamber. Boom! Boom! Thick flames burst out from Dong Tiankuei's rank 1 flame and shot out one after another, but halfway through the release of the flame, its power suddenly disappeared. Dong Tiankuei's body sank as cold sweat seeped out of his forehead. He covered his thighs with one hand, and his entire body could not help but tremble. The pain was unbearable. Why? Dong Tiankuei replied heavily. It was hard for him to advance even half a step after breaking through the immortal swordsman rank, and in this period of time, his cultivation had not improved at all. This was the destruction of his second-grade fire essence. His body could not withstand it any longer, and with the hidden disease erupting in his body, his cultivation would not be able to recover at all, unless an even stronger power was injected into his body. He had been waiting for Long Fei to get the fire essence. However, it had been 10 days, and he still hadn't come back. This made Dong Tiankuei exceptionally unhappy. Dong Tiankuei walked out of the secret room and said with a heavy voice, "Third Elder still hasn't returned yet? Master, he's not back yet." The disciples that were sent to investigate were unable to find anything either. It seems like the third elder has disappeared. The corner of Dong Tiankuei's eyes twitched. He was extremely dissatisfied. Useless trash. Seems like I have to do this myself. An elder's disappearance did not attract any attention. The key thing was that he had been operating in secret, so other than Dong Tiankuei himself, not many people in Horcrux's Gate Hill knew about the third elder's disappearance. An elder's disappearance did not attract any attention. The key thing was that he had been operating in secret, so other than Dong Tiankuei himself, not many people in Horcrux's Gate Hill knew about the third elder's disappearance. There were more than 1,000 ancient antiquity elders. Adding on the fact that the elders had sufficient freedom, they did not need to report anything to anyone, and could choose to cultivate in seclusion in a certain cave at any time. It was a very normal thing for the elders to not be noticed. Compared to the Horcrux's Gate's third elder who was not noticed, Fong Wanpeng's situation was a little different. "Fong Wanpeng, come back with us. This is your only path. If you dare run again, don't blame us for being impolite." In the dense forest, 4 yellow armored guards surrounded Fong Wanpeng. Fong Wanpeng's face was burned, but he did not recover. When he found out that Dong Tiankuei wasn't dead for the past 2 months and had returned to the ancient antiquity, he knew what kind of consequences he would face. He didn't think that Dong Tiankue was still alive, and even more so, did not expect that he would be able to return to the ancient antiquity. Looking at the 4 yellow armored guards, they were the main hall's personal guards, the elite of the ancient antiquity, and every single one of them was a powerhouse of the king's swordsman rank. Moreover, not only were there 4 guards in yellow armor, but even more of them were rushing to this place. Fong Wampong slightly said, I still don't want to return to the sect. Moreover, I have not done anything to let the ancient antiquity down. Since the sect master has sent you all to capture me, then I should not go back right now. The yellow armored guard meant that he had committed a crime. Then again, the fact that the ancient antiquity had mobilized the yellow armored guards for Dong Tiankue meant that Dong Tiankue had not lost his power. If a rogue cultivator like him were to return, his fate could be imagined. He couldn't go back. You don't want to return to the sect? He didn't do anything that would let the sect down? Fong Wampong, are you saying that you can't go back if you don't want to? Have you ever done something that you don't have any points in your heart? If you didn't do anything wrong, do you think we would have come looking for you? I advise you to stop struggling so fearlessly. If you feel that you did not do anything wrong, then the sect will explain. A guard said indifferently, his eyes communicating a little. Fong Wampong laughed bitterly and said, Did you speak clearly? How could he survive? Cut the crap. Fong Wampong will ask you one last time. Are you coming back with us? Zhang Xian stepped forward. The aura on the 4 of them suddenly changed. A faint killing intent could be felt. Fong Wampong said, Junior brothers, when we return, I will naturally return. I do not wish to return yet, so don't force me to make a move either. Not waiting for him to finish. A yellow-armored warrior said in a low voice, Impudent. The 4 of them attacked at the same time. Fong Wampong's aura was suddenly released. Rumble. A powerful pressure was released, directly crushing the 4 of them. Their gazes tightened as they pulled out their weapons. Boom! With a blur of his body, he rushed in front of Fong Wampong. Fong Wampong leaped into the air at the same place he was standing. Just as the 4 of them wanted to give chase, a black shadow flashed by. Bam! Fong Wampong fell down from the sky. Falling to the ground, he spurted a mouthful of blood. The black shadow descended and stood on a rock. A sneer formed on the corner of his mouth as he spoke, truly useless. How could 4 people fight against 1 person in such a manner? I can't stand it any longer. Fong Wampong raised his gaze. He did not have any reaction to the attack. Just now, he had dealt with people with terrifyingly high cultivation, so they would definitely be able to completely crush him. With a heavy voice, he asked, Who are you? Black Robe Man laughed. I'm someone who meddles in other people's business. I don't like people bullying others when there are fewer people. The 4 yellow armored guards were not happy, but if the black gown man had not intervened, they would not have been able to capture Fong Wampong right now. The 4 could only clasp their hands and thank him. Thank you for your help. The black-robed figure moved. They could not see his speed at all, and the 4 of them were also unable to react. The man in black stood in front of them and said, Since you've said thank you, then you must at least show some gratitude, right? The 4 men's eyes grew dark as they asked, What do you want? The corner of the black-robed man's mouth curled up as he smiled and said, It's very simple. Your lives. The pupils of the 4 youths abruptly constricted. At this moment, they retreated all of a sudden. However, the black-robed man disappeared once again, landing behind the 4 of them. His 5 fingers formed a claw, grabbing onto the back of their necks. It let out a painful cry. In less than half a second, a person turned into a dried corpse, his body constantly shrinking. From the appearance of a middle-aged man, he turned into a 100-year-old man. His skin started to wrinkle, and his hair turned dry and white, as though his lifespan had reached its end in an instant. One must know that the lifespan of these king swordsman realm cultivators were all around 5,000 years. The eyes of the other 3 trembled, and their bodies trembled non-stop. Even their feet could not move, and their faces were incomparably pale. A trash's physique, just this much longevity. The man in black sneered. His gaze shifted toward the three figures. Ah, ah, ah. Three blood-curdling screams rang out. The three of them were sucked dry and turned into withered old men. The black-robed man's face was filled with disdain. They're all in the form of trash. Huff! After taking a deep breath, the man in black walked in front of Fong Wanpeng. Fong Wanpeng subconsciously shrank back. Just now, when he saw the scene before his eyes, his heart was trembling and even the skin on his head was numb. He had never seen such a terrifying technique. Moreover, the black-robed man was moody. It was as if he wasn't a person. The black-gowned man's face was full of smiles. "You are someone from the ancient antiquity?" Fong Wanpeng nodded and said, "Yes, yes." The black-robed man laughed and said, "Very good. Bring me to ancient antiquity." Fong Wanpeng looked at the black-robed man and said, "I won't bring you there. Even if the ancient antiquity sent people to capture him, his heart would still protect the ancient antiquity. If such a terrifying powerhouse were to go to ancient antiquity, it would be like a ferocious tiger charging into a flock of sheep. The entire ancient antiquity would be sucked dry by him." The black-robed man smiled faintly and raised Fong Wanpeng up into the air. He sneered and said, "You want to die?" Fong Wanpeng clenched his teeth and said, "Kill me." The man in black sneered, "Do you want to die? Haha, it's not that easy." Then, Fong Wanpeng suddenly fell to the ground, and the black-robed man suddenly disappeared. Right at this moment, the surrounding forests issued a series of miserable screams. Ah, ah. These people were his yellow armored guards, the elite powerhouse-s, but now they weren't even considered ants. They were simply massacres. In less than half a minute, once again, the black-robed man slowly walked toward Fong Wanpeng. With a cold smile on his lips, he said, "How is it? Can you take me there now?" Still not. Without waiting for Fong Wanpeng to speak, the black-robed man placed a hand on top of his head. The intersect examination questions have been passed. 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 There were still 3 days until the intersect examination. The exam's topic had already been decided, and the purpose was to let the participating disciples prepare themselves. The intersect examination was divided into 3 parts. Survival assessment. In a dangerous place near the ancient antiquity, demon beast ran rampant. They had to stay there for a day and a night, and only those who survived could enter the second round of the examination. The second round's talent display. Displaying what you have learned is similar to the rookie selection. The only difference is that what you displayed this time wasn't some ancient superpower, but your speciality, strength, or speed. Reach a certain level before you can enter the third round. The third round was divided into 2 categories. One was a martial arts duel with the examinees, and the other was a challenge to the inner disciples. Even if he won, he had to meet the requirements to succeed. If one didn't meet the standards, it would still be considered as a failure. Under normal circumstances, only a handful of people would be able to pass through after 3 rounds, and not even one of them would be qualified to enter the intersect. The standard of the intersect examination was very high. Basically, the inner court disciple test was only a hope for the outer court disciples. A real hope is a kind of fantasy. It was too difficult, and that was why there were only a handful of outer sect disciples who could enter the inner sect in these years. It was too difficult. For this year's 3 exams, even if one passed each of them, they would have to meet the criteria set by the inner sect before they could enter the next round. This was even more difficult. The content of this assessment is too difficult. Holy sh*t, who can pass that? Not a shred of hope. Many outer court disciples were dejected. To many people, they would be unable to pass this type of test, even if they work hard for their entire lifetime. Then again, even if they were able to participate in the competition, they would only be able to accumulate 300 points in a few years, or even over 10 years. Look at your dejected looks. You don't seem to be people of the martial arts training at all. What does the martial arts training care about? It is a spirit of never compromising. No matter how difficult it is, as long as you work hard, you will always be able to achieve it. An old man said in a deep voice. He was an outer door presbyter and, at the same time, an outer sect disciple. He had already participated in more than 20 inner sect examinations. Not a single pass. Even so, he did not give up. Looking at this year's exam questions, his heart sank as well. It's increased difficulty again, sigh. The inner sect is really out of our reach. He looked at the huge mountain in the distance. That was the inner sect gate of the ancient antiquity, and was a place he had no right to enter. Ah! Boom! Boom! Ah! Rumble! I don't believe it! Open for me! In front of the door of consciousness, Long Fei smashed heavily onto the door of consciousness. It did not stop for a few days, and, at this moment, the door of consciousness was peeling. It was cracking. The cracks continued to spread. Bala, Bala! Break for me! Long Fei used both of his fists, the power of ancient dragon body and the power of 5 revolutions body, in addition to the power of eternity and infinite fist, to match the strength of superpower boxing. He slammed it down heavily. Boom! The door of consciousness let out a painful groan. Wong! The door was trembling. Fragments fell off one after another. Finally, Walala! All of them shattered. Long Fei smirked. If you continue, your sister. The idea moved and stepped forward. At this moment, boom! Long Fei's body suddenly bounced and also took in a deep breath of cold air. Phew! He sucked in a deep breath of air, as though he had held it in for several years. Long Fei looked around, and then his gaze landed on the side of the bed with his eyes open wide, motionlessly staring at his phoenix. Their eyes met. Phoenix's eyes glazed over, and she muttered, "Is this a dream? Was this a dream? Is this a dream?" She did not dare to move or speak to Long Fei. She was worried that this was a dream and that she had imagined this scenario. She worried that the moment he spoke, Long Fei would lose consciousness once more. She was too afraid it was a dream. Long Fei gave a shallow smile and said, "Little girl, is there something on my face? What are you looking at like that for?" In an instant, Poochie, Phoenix covered her mouth with one hand, and her eyes immediately gushed out, while her entire body threw herself into Long Fei's embrace. Oh, woo woo woo. Without saying anything, he started to wail. What was crying was something that made Long Fei's heart ache. He lightly patted her back and said, "Enough, don't cry." Long Fei did not know how long he had been unconscious. Who knew if the Phoenix used Nirvana pills or Phoenix King Blood S to save his life? It was also at this time, Long Fei's Dragon Kwang's voice sounded out from within his body. He sounded very hoarse and aged, and Dragon Kwang seemed to have transformed into a different person as he said, "Master, you're finally awake." His voice was incomparably excited. These days, Long Kwang had been in extreme torment. He blamed himself and even wanted to die. However, he could not end his life in Long Fei's body, or else he would have committed suicide long ago. It was too hard to bear. Long Fei asked, "Long Kwang, have I been unconscious for a long time?" Long Kwang Dao, "It's been 2 months." Long Fei was startled and said, "That long? Who saved me?" Long Kwang Dao, "Master, it's all my fault. Otherwise you wouldn't have fainted for so long. It's my fault. I shouldn't have taken your life as a risk. I shouldn't have used that secret technique that I have never used. It's all my fault." He started to blame himself crazily. Long Fei said, "Don't blame yourself. I'm awake now, right? Furthermore, I have also become a lot stronger. I must thank you." Long Kwang Dao, "No, it was this girl who saved you. She used 3 Nirvana pills, and each Nirvana pill was considered a super divine pill even in the divine space. This is not all. The key point is her blood. She instilled Phoenix King Blood S into you, otherwise I would not have been able to complete her secret technique." "Master, this girl is really amazing. I have never seen a Phoenix King Blood before, but I didn't expect it to be on him. Her talent is at least 100 times stronger than those ancient god tribes." Long Fei knew that the Phoenix was different from the others from the beginning. He never thought that she would be so awesome. Hugging up Phoenix, he said, "Little girl, don't cry anymore. I'm fine now. I'm completely fine. I won't faint again." Phoenix wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and muttered, "My honey, I'm not crying. I'm smiling." Long Fei looked at her stubborn look as he hugged her tightly once more and said softly, "I'm sorry for making you suffer." Phoenix resisted her tears and giggled. It was also at this time. Jean rushed into the courtyard and shouted, "Big sister, come out quickly. Brother Bailey is injured." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.